the lax, the jumps, the kicks. B-ball, hardball, softball, sticks, the glove, the sweat, the art, the smart, the brains, the boss, the soul and heart. News and views, scores and sports. Legends, losers, rivals, myths, the falls, the victories, and the hits. Introducing college sports television. Never before have so many college sports been jammed into one network. College sports television, #1 in college sports.
The USCHO Game of the Week is the first ever national internet broadcast for women's college hockey. It is also individually funded. That's why the Game of the Week needs your support to maintain and expand its coverage. For more information on how to contribute, please call 212-933-0652 or send an email to uschobroadcast@yahoo.com. That's 212-933-0652 or uschobroadcast@yahoo.com. Happy 2007 to all of you listening out there or watching on USCHO.com. So glad you could join us on this first weekend of the new calendar year. Brian Schultz back with you on Season 3 of the USCHO Game of the Week, and it should be another good one between border rivals, a rematch of last year's national championship game, Wisconsin and Minnesota. The Badgers ranked second in the country, 17 wins, just 1 defeat and 3 ties, including a 4-1 victory at the hands of Minnesota last night. For the Gophers, they're running second in the conference, 11-3-1 in WCHA play, 14-4-1 overall, ranked 4th in the latest USCHO poll. And as usual, I did not come alone this afternoon. Got a very special guest. Been looking forward to asking and hopefully getting her on the program. Was, of course, the latest in our line of former interviewees that's turned analyst. She is currently the all-time leading scorer in the history of Minnesota women's hockey and holds the NCAA single-season record for points at 114 back in the 2005 season. Winner of 2 national championships, a 3-time All-American, also a 2-time U.S. Olympian, and is still active with the national team as she moves into the postgraduate part of her life. Speaking, of course, of one of the all-time greats, Natalie Darwitz. Natalie, so glad to have you on board this afternoon. Thanks for taking a few hours.
Thanks. It's good to be here. Looks like we'll have a good crowd today's game. So I'm excited to be here to see how Minnesota is going to hold up on night 2 against a very good Wisconsin team. So it should be a great night. And thanks again for having me. I'm a first-timer, so hopefully people at home can deal with me and stomach having me on the show.
Well, I think it's certainly a privilege from our perspective. And, let's start with this rivalry. You were part of it for a long time, and certainly your last year with Minnesota. Wisconsin came about as close as a team could come to one of the all-time great squads, the one that you played on, without actually coming up with a victory. But tell me about the challenge of playing against a Mark Johnson coached Wisconsin team.
Yeah, obviously Mark Johnson, very credible coach, probably one of the best out there. And every time we played against Wisconsin, it was a defensive battle. And every time it was a 1-goal game, close game. And, it was always tough to play Wisconsin. And, I was very fortunate enough that we never lost to them. But the Gophers right now are having a little tough time against Wisconsin right now. And they're a great team, and they have a lot of tremendous players and a lot of up-and-coming national players who I've had the opportunity to meet in the last week or two with the U.S. camp. And, a lot of the Wisconsin girls can go, and they're great hockey players. And hopefully Minnesota tonight can pick it up from last night and bring a good game tonight.
Well, Wisconsin is 5-0-1 in its last 6 against the Gophers, including that 2006 NCAA title game. And, for someone like yourself, being the kind of offensive player that you are, maybe a little bit easier than some of the current Gopher players, but this is still a pretty potent Gopher squad. What would be your advice to their offense? How do you try to get the Badger defense out of its comfort zone?
Definitely. The Badger defense they're their own for their defense, and the Gophers just got to shoot the puck, plain and simple. It's going to be hard to get to the net with these tough, big Badger defensemen, but you got to get to the puck to the net and then go hard. And tire them out is another big key. Dump the puck in, get them moving their feet, get them, stopping, starting, and tire them out. I think that'll be the key to Gorp's success. Obviously, shoot the puck's going to help you out a lot in any game. So,
on the flip side, the players who you referenced, the young Badger players who you got a chance to see at the national camp, mostly on the offensive side of things. Wisconsin, perhaps in some circles, sold short for how good a scoring team they can be. And certainly everyone knows about a Bobby Joe Sluicer or a Sarah Bauer, but really it's been the emergence of some of the younger players who you got to see up close and personal. So tell us a bit more about your impressions of an Erica Lawler, Megan Duggan, Janelle Zog, those types of players.
One of my favorite players right now out there is Erica Lawler. I think she has the whole package. She can fly, she can shoot, she's crafty, she sees the ice well, and love playing with her. I got the opportunity to play with her, and she's phenomenal and sees the ice great. And then obviously Dugan, big strong power forward who I got the first-hand opportunity of seeing her power and her strength. She laid me out probably 20 feet at camp last week. Nice hit. And Kayla Sanders is another up-and-comer who has the skills. Only a freshman, and I think she'll be in the U.S. national scene for a while. Same with Janelle Zog. Obviously she's 7 feet tall out there.
6 feet tall.
6 feet. I know that. Just giving her a hard time. And she's got a long reach, and she can snap that puck off too. So I like the Wisconsin forwards. They're very crafty, and they have a sense for the game, which is most important.
That's a lot of names you just reeled off. And what that speaks to is the depth of Wisconsin's scoring attack. And, Minnesota, actually both teams a bit shorthanded this weekend. Bobby Joe Sluicer, the aforementioned All-American, away with Canada's under-22 team. But so, too, is Melanie Gagnon and Bobby Ross, who I'll throw in there as a very good defensive forward. So for a fairly young Gopher defense, what is the strategy for containing that Badger attack?
That's tough. I just, play them aggressive. I think as a forward, when defensemen play me aggressive, that's when it makes it more challenging. When they lay back and give crafty forwards time and space, that's when you're going to get in trouble. You got to step up, play aggressive, and just work hard. Hard work's the most important thing in this game of hockey. And I think if the defensemen just play confidence and be aggressive, I think they'll be all right tonight.
Well, one thing Minnesota could have at its disposal is a partisan home crowd. And you're perhaps a very good person to have on hand for a day when Minnesota's marketing department has done a great job of advertising this game. There's a lot of thunder sticks out there. I see a lot of kids, a lot of young players. You were very outspoken when you were a player about the lack of fan support that your team, which was one of the great teams of all time, got. I guess how refreshing, I don't know, how bittersweet. What are your emotions right now when you look out at this facility, which not every seat is filled, but it is certainly well over 2,000 people here today.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to see, back when 2-3 years ago when, the Kelly Stevens, Chrissy Wendell, and, what they call one of the greatest lines of women's hockey, and one of the teams in women's hockey couldn't fill a hockey rink. It was frustrating. We were doing all we could on the ice. We were winning games. We were, putting on a show and couldn't get a full crowd at Ritter Arena. And, to see it more than half full or 3/4 full tonight is a good step in the right direction, and hopefully people will take notice and come out here more often and realize what a great game women's hockey is, and hopefully what a great state Minnesota is, and come out and support more often.
No, it's certainly a fair point. I mean, I think anyone who ever saw you play was spoiled. I mean, I got a chance to see your college team play. I've had a chance to see you play with the national team since you were 18, I think, back in 2001. So, I've been pretty spoiled in that regard. But yeah, I mean, people definitely have been missing out. I'm surprised in a state where they were familiar with someone like yourself growing up through the high school system. I am a little more surprised that they didn't sort of keep in touch with you, I guess, when you were still in college.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember in high school hockey, we used to pack the, local hockey rinks, myself and Chrissy Wendell, and those are the two names growing up. And, we had hoped it would carry over to the collegiate level, but I guess it was too big of shoes for us to fill at the time. And, I guess we're kind of the stepping stone in helping women's hockey kind of grow inch by inch where it is right now. So, we're proud of that, but obviously it would have been amazing to play in a full, packed Ritter Arena, because this arena is, one of my favorite arenas to play in of all time. Great atmosphere. So it would have been pretty amazing to have a standing whatever crowd only in this rink.
Well, Minnesota last night did jump out to the early lead, so the crowd was able to get into it, but then Wisconsin putting the clamps down and taking the 4-1 decision. Let me steal a couple minutes of your time to talk about what you're doing these days. You came back, still had some schoolwork to tend to, which I'm sure was a lot of fun after the year with the national team, but you're still very active as a player. So tell me about life after Gopher hockey.
Yeah, life is good right now. Obviously, it was a tough decision not to come back this year, and it's going to be tough watching this game. It's my first game, so it's going to be tough, but life is really good right now. I have a life, which didn't really happen the last 4 or 5 years of my life, because hockey, one-track mind with hockey. So this year, got to be doing different things. Still in school, I have a semester left, and hopefully I'll graduate with a degree in business this spring. So I'm looking forward to it, what lies ahead in the next chapter of my life. And still with the national team, and really like where things are headed with the U.S. team and the new up-and-coming players who I mentioned. And I think we have a great chance this April to show the skills we have at World Championships.
Well, I think they kept a lot of what happened at your festival under wraps, and I think with good reason, because it was a different type of setup. I was fortunate enough to get a look at the players' schedule with one of your teammates out there. So give the folks at home a little sense of maybe how the drill and the regiment was different at this festival than it was in past years.
Yeah, they basically worked us to the bone. We had an hour and a half practice in the morning, followed by a good 2-hour lift with a lot of squats, and a game in the evening. And so they kind of set the bar high for us. This is what we want you to do. This is how elite athletes train, and that's how we got to follow it. But most important was it was a fun atmosphere. We played. We just got to be ourselves, played hockey, and the people out there were great. The coaching staff was great, and USA Hockey has made a lot of improvements by bringing Mark Johnson in, because obviously he's probably the best women's college hockey coach, maybe best college hockey coach general out there. So he made it fun for us. It was really neat. 2 nights out of the week we played 3-on-3 games, and you kind of got a glimpse of people's individual skills, and people just had fun, and it was really competitive, and it was just a great time. And I think a lot of the girls are excited where it's going and the possibilities of worlds and what we can do and what kind of talent we have.
You referenced the off-ice, and I know one of the bigger changes that isn't going to get a lot of press attention is you finally do have a person who is in charge of your off-ice conditioning, and Tina Murray. Tell me about the difference and impact she's had.
Tina is phenomenal. I think she's very knowledgeable, and she wants to push us and make us better hockey players, make us better athletes, and she's the type of person who's going to do that. You have to respect her. She demands your respect, and you're going to work hard for her, or else you're not going to be there. You have to want to improve, and she has instilled that in us. And I think having her on board is going to help us tremendously on the ice. So I think it's a great thing USA Hockey's doing in bringing Tina on board.
Something that has been unveiled this afternoon, which the folks at home will get to see in a few minutes. Minnesota is sporting a 3rd jersey today, and as a former player, I'm sure you have some fashion sense. Your impressions about the physical appearance of this Gopher team today?
The girls look good. They look really good. They're flashy jerseys. I'm really excited that they got these 3rd jerseys. The men's team always sports theirs, and I think it's about time that the women's program got a 3rd jersey, because they look really great on them. Intimidating.
I won't describe them. We go through the colors of each team. I'll let the fans just wait and see. It is a little bit different. A little more yellow is what I'll say. But the teams are on the ice, and I think people in the background can already hear the crowd that it's come to its feet. Not every seat is filled. It was technically billed the first sellout in history, but most of the people have come out. There's certainly well over 2,000 in attendance today. So the potential for an excellent atmosphere here this afternoon, and it's up to Minnesota to light the fuse. It's up to Wisconsin to keep the fuse under wraps for this afternoon as the defending national champion and the national runner-up from 2006 get it on in the latest chapter of their border skirmish in just a few minutes. Let's step aside for a commercial break, then we'll bring things back for the drop of the puck. Minnesota and Wisconsin USCHO game of the week coming up in just a moment.
just TV. No lockouts, just hockey.
Next weekend, it's a Friday-Saturday doubleheader on the USCHO Game of the Week. Friday night, an Ivy rivalry renews when the Dartmouth Big Green visit Cambridge to battle the Harvard Crimson. And Saturday afternoon, top-ranked Mercyhurst hits the road to take on Wayne State. Dartmouth-Harvard Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Mercyhurst-Wayne State Saturday at 3:30, only on USCHO.com.
Thank you for your cooperation. And now, please remain standing as the University of Minnesota Pep Band leads us in our national anthem.
Minnesota and Wisconsin, the two teams that made it to the season's final day a year ago, and back at it again here this afternoon in front of a near-capacity crowd at Ritter Arena, women's only facility that holds upwards of 3,400, and a lot of kids and a lot of thundersticks and a lot of maroon and gold in attendance on this afternoon. So glad you could join us for the USCHO Game of the Week. I'm Brian Schultz. She is former Gopher All-American Natalie Darwitz. And Natalie, in a nutshell, what are you expecting to see out here this afternoon, and what would be a few keys for the Gophers and a few keys for the Badgers?
I'm expecting to see a defensive game, not a lot of shots going on, but the keys for the Gophers are obviously getting the pucks to the net and, outworking this good defensive corps of Wisconsin. And then for Wisconsin, they just score goals. Hopefully you'll see a big game out of Lawler and Dugan and Sarah Bauer. Hoping for a big game out of those three, see what they got, and hopefully just all around, up and down, good, clean game of hockey today.
Minnesota and Wisconsin. Wisconsin in the Road Reds with white lettering and black trim. Minnesota debuting a third jersey this afternoon, which is featuring the yellow color on the jersey with maroon sleeves, maroon pants, and maroon helmets. And Minnesota will skate left to right in the opening period. Goaltending matchup today Kim Hanlon for the Gophers, back from injury right before the holiday break, making her third appearance of the season in her sophomore campaign. And at the other end, Christine Dufour, 5'8" senior out of Quebec for Wisconsin, 7-0-1 on the campaign, 1.24 goals against, 92% save percentage. Wisconsin will have Kristen Whitting and outstanding converted forward Megan Mickelson to start out on defense. Minnesota counters with Anya Miller and a converted forward of its own, Maggie Shoba on the blue line. Up front, Sarah Bauer, the reigning Kazmaier winner, between Megan Duggan and Janelle Zog. On the other side, Gigi Marvin, Kelly Blankenship, and Janelle Filipchek from Egan High School. As we get underway in the first period here, Wisconsin coming up with a 4-1 win last night, and Sarah Bauer, the Kazmaier winner, gets her first touch of the afternoon, sliding it down behind the net of Kim Hanlon. Up the near side wall it goes. Whitting trying to hold the line with help from Bauer. Bauer half circle, down low. Quick feed in front. One-timer, they score! Janelle Zog, bang, bang, 27 seconds in, and Wisconsin has a 1-0 lead.
Probably not the way you want to start the game if you're a Gopher, but Wisconsin came out, got the puck deep. Sarah Bauer, being a smart player, she has got it down low. And tic-tac-toe to Zog, who usually puts them away when she's in the slot. You don't want to leave her alone, and she's known to have success against the Gophers especially.
Scored the first goal, scored 2 goals actually in last year's national title game, and is pacing Wisconsin with 17 on the season. And as Natalie referred to, a bang-bang play. Bauer to Duggan to Zog, and on the first shift of the afternoon, Wisconsin takes the crowd out of it for the time being as they have a 1-0 lead here in the first. Alicia Matthews on the bump to Rachel Bible far side. Of course, both teams missing key personnel here this afternoon. No Bobby Joe Stacia for the Badgers. No Bobby Ross and Melanie Gagnon for the Gophers. Canadian under-22 tournament in Germany is taking those players away from their college squads. Is down low. Gophers trying to respond. It's Erica McKenzie, who missed much of the first half of the season and with an injury came back for the first time last night.
Erica was invited to the U.S. camp, but obviously forewent that because of her knee, which is a very smart decision because obviously by the schedule of last week it was not a lot of resting. So it's a good thing she rested it and got back for this big series against Wisconsin.
Michelle Maunu trying to bounce it off the far side of the wall. Gets another chance on the clear with help from Andrea Nichols. Nichols having a career offensive season in her senior campaign, already with 11 goals on the year. And she's forechecking in the offensive zone against Kristen Whitting. Heidi Kutsian out there for the Badgers with help from Kayla Hagan trying to get it out of the zone. Hagan from Cross Lake, Minnesota. Kelly Blankenship sweeping down low, trying to center to Jamie Horton. That was tipped away. And it's Whitting below her own end line, sliding it around far side to Phoebe Monteleone. Anya Miller on the pinch, trying to hold. Gets help from Horton to do just that. But now it's Hagan lining it around to the near side now as Filipchek comes down low along with Blankenship to keep the Badgers pinned down for a little while longer. Just over 2 gone by in the first period. Janelle Zog, 17th, just 33 seconds in, has Wisconsin up 1-0. Trying to change that on the backhand wraparound with Gigi Marvin, but Dufour shuts it off on the near post. Alexandra Zebro holds in on the near side, and Whitting for the Badgers to bump to Hagan. Hagan up to Kutsian. Kutsian being harassed every step of the way by Marvin, but is able to get into the neutral zone where Minnesota will reset.
Minnesota's bottling them up right now and keeping the play in Wisconsin's zone, which is exactly what they need to do if they want to get on board and make this a game.
Sarah Bauer saucering ahead, a bit too far for the long reach of Zog, taken back by Brittany Francis, who scored the lone Minnesota goal last night. Francis, the Thunder Bay, Ontario native, chips it over the line. Wisconsin sending it back the other way to Whitney Graff, another player enjoying a career season. Just 1 point 2 years ago, 19 last year, and her next point will be a new career high, and we're only about halfway through her junior campaign.
Yeah, and she's also a great person. And she was on my team freshman year, and you knew of the potential Whitney Graff had. She's probably one of the best goal scorers I've seen in practice, and got the opportunity last year and this year, and has proven what she can do.
We'll hear from Whitney in the second intermission, along with Wisconsin senior defenseman Megan Mickelson. Mickelson also with a goal last night. Puck in the neutral zone here. Now backpedaling into her own end is the aforementioned Mickelson. Wisconsin very patient. They have the 1-0 lead.
They just control the puck so well. They don't ever want to turn it over, and that's what makes them, a very threatening team, is they always have control of the puck.
Erica Lawler gets her first touch, a leaving for Angie Keesley. Taken away, though, by Maggie Shoba behind the net. Shoba on the wrap. Couldn't get it by Rachel Bible at the far point. Bible to Tia Hansen, who's missed much of the season with injury. Just 1 goal thus far for her. She was Wisconsin's offensive hero in both the quarterfinal and semifinal round of the NCAA tournament a year ago as Minnesota chops it out of the zone and down. It looks like we'll finally get our first whistle in the form of an icing with 15:50 to go in the first.
Besides the first shot on net, that was a goal from Wisconsin. It's been a pretty even game, and I would say majority of the play has been in the Wisconsin zone, so that's a good sign for the Gophers. But obviously, it hurt having the first shot being a goal. So hopefully they can bounce back, and Wisconsin still needs to keep shooting.
Puck drifts free of the neutral zone. Mickelson on the back pedal to play it. She figures to see quite a bit of ice time, although Wisconsin does still have a balanced defense. Not having Bobby Jo Slusser will take its toll, and probably more so on the power play than anything else. Wisconsin 31% on the season with the man advantage. Near point, Mickelson trying to dig it free. Take it back by Jasmine Giles. Giles into the high slot, has players with her, tries to float it back door to Emily Kranz, but pass too hot to handle. Now handled by Sanders behind the net. This time the centering feed blocked by the skates of Anya Miller. Giles takes over, restarts the cycle. Kranz comes over to contest Miller in the near corner. Miller wins it free. And the Elk River product leaves for Nichols, who slides it around far side of Horton. Goes through her stick, though. Micah Nordby able to hold the blue line there.
Wisconsin applying some good forechecking pressure right now. Minnesota's bottled up in their zone.
Finally escaped to center. Mickelson tracking it there. Swings D to Nordby. Nordby up to Zog. And Zog tips it the rest of the way down, where Bauer will give chase against Anya Miller. Miller leaves behind the cage, but Megan Duggan is the first player there. Duggan playmaking far side. Leaves for Zog on the cycle. Up top, Bible. Crooks it. Lets fly. Didn't get all of it. Blocked between the circles, but goes right to the stick of Bauer, who moves to the near side and looks to reset. Bauer with the handle against Blankenship. The puck drifts free between the circles, and Janelle Filipchek hacks it out of the zone as Blankenship chases after Rachel Bible back to the far end. Pressure applied by Filipchek, couldn't get onto it. Puck squirts up the seam, handled by Willie. Wrist shot did not go through. Blocked neatly in front by Alicia Matthews and cleared. Alexander Zebro with the touch at center. Far side of Marvin. Offsides the call on the Gophers. 14:08 to go in the first. Janelle Zog 17th the difference. It's 1-0.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Wisconsin first line, Minnesota needs to watch them. Whenever they get on the ice, they create offense, and they're good cyclers, and they get the puck to the net. Minnesota needs to watch that first line, Bauer's first line, because those three players are working really well together right now and creating a lot of opportunities and havoc for Minnesota.
And that's where not having Bobby Ross will have an impact as well. Ross, a good scorer, but also a very good defensive forward. Not available today. Is in front. Lawler throws it. The follow-up attempt is staved off by Hanlon as Keesley came bidding. So Lawler and Keesley crafting a good scoring opportunity, but it stays 1-0.
That's a key save right there for Minnesota. If that would have went in, they would have been in some big trouble early on in the first period.
Kristen Whitting in the neutral zone. Far side of Emily Morris. Morris slips a check. Lofts it back to the near side of Monteleone just off the bench. Monteleone protecting against Zebro in the near corner. Has help from Lawler at the half wall. Lawler double team there. Monteleone comes over to even the odds. It's fished free by Blankenship. And Kelly Blankenship, who knows Kyla Sanders quite well. Those two grew up in the state of Florida. Quite far from where you'd expect to find some top-flight hockey talent. But
Florida to Minnesota and Wisconsin, huh?
Down low, Whitney Graff in the offensive zone for the Gophers. Feeling heat from Kutsian, and Kutsian wins it free up the left wing side, trying to turn on the Jets as he hits the Gopher line. The centering feed is finessed toward Hanlon, who fights it off as Kayla Hagan got a touch to it. Far side shoulder lifts the stick of Hagan. The puck pops in the air, drops to the stick of Anya Miller between the circles. Miller feeling heat from Sanders on the forecheck. Holds her ground and gets the clear, but it's handled by Mickelson at center, and Sanders not able to touch up as Mickelson came charging in.
Erica Lawler, you just saw her last shift and you saw her strength. She can actually bench probably twice her body weight. We had to do testing out in Lake Placid, and I think she put up like 170. And if you ever saw Erica Lawler up close, she's probably like a $125. Probably one of the smallest, fastest girls out here, and just obviously freakishly strong out there.
Had an impact as a freshman, and mentioning Lawler and Duggan, it's hard to not mention one without the other. They're best of friends. They were line mates in high school at Cushing Academy, and now back together at the collegiate level and possibly the national team level in their college years. Puck down low in the Minnesota defensive zone. Jasmine Giles double teamed. Maunu trying to clear, but Giles gets possession. Sends to the point to Matthews, right back to Giles. Giles slipping a check nicely into the circle on the backhand up high. Not sure Hanlon ever saw it, but went right into her equipment, and she holds on.
Beautiful move by number
Jasmine Giles.
Jasmine,
the other freshman, the Canadian freshman.
Canadian freshman, there you go. Great move, just cleanly beat the Minnesota defenseman who was looking down at her skate laces, not looking at the body. Key mistake for a defenseman to make right there. Awesome for a forward, though. I love when that happens.
Off the draw, Wisconsin controls and sends to the back wall. The Bauer line is back out, and as Duggan tries to assert a cycle, broken up for the moment by Filipchek. Filipchek and Bauer get together. Duggan takes it free, trying to slide it to the front, intercepted by Miller. Fans on the clearing attempt, but Blankenship pushes it just beyond the blue stripe. Bauer takes back and leaves for Zog with 11:45 to go in the first. Zog 17th, the only goal on the board. 1-0 Wisconsin as Bauer totes it over the line. On the right wing side, the centering feed hits the skates of Shoba. Bauer back on it behind the net. Nice slip move there. On the backhand has Zog cutting to the front, but instead goes to the point to Bible. Bible to Bauer. Bauer canceled by Filipchek for the moment. Bible comes in to help out. Bauer standing her ground. Bible has control. A wrist shot sails wide. And Zog will leg after it in the near corner with Shoba monitoring. Leaving now for Bauer. Sandwiched to the glass by Filipchek. Shoba digs it free up the near side to Kelly Blankenship. Blankenship, who has a great set of wheels, takes off on right wing, gains center ice, and chips in.
Minnesota did a lot better job tightening up on that Wisconsin first line and kept into the perimeter and didn't let them dangle around and cycle. So that was a good adjustment for Minnesota right there.
Alexandra Zebro, taller Minnesota defenders back behind her own net, leaving for Dagny Willie. Willie pokes it up the wall. Keeley reaching for it, not able to hold. And Mickelson back at her own blue stripe. Taking a look at what she has, sends near side to Whitting. Up now to Lawler. Lawler turning on the Jets, gets into the high slot. Ridden off her skates by Zebra. Willie takes back for Minnesota. And the former competitive boxer takes a step in front of her own net. Always a risky proposition, but supported by Erica McKenzie. Now it's Zebra behind the Gopher cage. We come up on the midway point of the first period. Wisconsin still leading by a count of 1-0. Zebro on the lead pass. It went through the stick of Whitney Graff, but I guess Graff got enough of a touch. That icing will be waved off, so Whitting plays it behind her own net. Near side to Jasmine Giles. Giles up to center ice. Now who stalls the rush there. It's taken back by Jamie Horton. Horton bumped down by Whitting. And it's handled by Kyla Sanders. She peels to the near side wall, but loses now to Becky Wacker trying to walk toward goal. Fended off by Keesley. And now Lois Nichols.
Minnesota's in the slot. They need to shoot instead of try to make three moves. They just need to get the puck to the net, get some shots on goal right now.
Nichols got it to the front, but Horton had her stick lifted and back the other way. It's Sanders double-teamed and ridden to the ice as she hit the blue line. Have not had a penalty thus far in the proceedings. As Michelle Mounty below the end line, monitored by Giles. Emily Kranz, a wrist shot in front, intercepted by Anya Miller. Never got through to Hanlon. Left now to Horton. She'll slide it into space up right wing, back to the Wisconsin end. Micah Norby on the quick turnabout. A lead pass tipped by Mickelson over the Minnesota line. Fielded cleanly by Shoba, who promptly reverses it out to Gigi Marvin. Marvin sends to Filipchek, and Filipchek chops it in as Blankenship will get the first touch in the near corner. With coming up on 9 to go in the first, still 1-0 Wisconsin. Gigi Marvin operating against Mickelson down low. Cycle broken up by Megan Duggan. And now Mickelson has a clean handle on it below the end line. Leaving now for Duggan on the far side. Duggan runs into trouble in the form of Gigi Marvin. And now it's Mickelson again behind her own net. Fakes out the left wing side. Again, we'll try the right wing side. And now we'll just lob it all the way down and take the icing and bring the draw back by Christine Dufour.
That was good pressure put on by the Minnesota first line, Filipchek's line. First good opportunity, they got Wisconsin bottled up on the one-on-one matchup with the first lines.
These two teams very comfortable with their full rotations. You see the scoring distributed across the lines, especially with Erica McKenzie back. She's playing on one line with Whitney Graft and Brittany Francis. You have the Marvin line, you have the Nichols line, which for much of the year has actually been the most consistent line. Nichols, Wacker, and formerly Whitney Graft, but some adjustments with Bobby Ross out of action this weekend. So both teams fairly balanced up front this season.
Minnesota won that face-off, and McKenzie had prime real estate to shoot, and she decided to try a little move. Minnesota's really just got to get that puck to the net and crash the net, because they're not going to get through these strong Wisconsin defensemen or forwards to the net. So they just got to, lay it on the net right now.
Minnesota has but one shot on goal, and it was a wraparound attempt early on by Gigi Marvin. Wisconsin 5 shots to their credit. They have the one goal and at least one other prime scoring opportunity besides as Tia Hansen slips a check at the center ice area and lobs deep from the red line before heading off on a change as Kayla Hagan chases after Zebro behind the Gopher net. Heidi Klutzy in far corner with help from Hagan. Hagan maneuvering behind the cage once again. Comes out the near side, still on the forehand. As she hits the face-off circle area, has it taken off her stick by Whitney Graff. Graff gets to the neutral zone, bottled up there. And now it's Becky Wacker. Her pass hit a body as well. Wisconsin so good at disrupting and getting in those passing lanes. As Anya Miller comes back down low into her own corner to try to reset.
That's good coaching. They're a very disciplined team. You know, they know the limitations and they do what's asked of, of Wisconsin, and you can see that through their play that they don't mess around with the puck at the offensive blue line. They just get it deep and work hard, and that's indicative to great coaching.
Badgers down to their own end this time. Puck along the near side wall, and it drifts free to center ice, fielded by Dagny Willie, and diagonal back in cross corner. Emily Morris over skates. Here comes Nichols on the turnover. Nichols quickly turns and centers. Cutting was Blankenship, but broken up by Sarah Bauer. Comes down low to help defensively, and Bauer's handling behind her own net. Near side quickly to Zog. Transfers it to the forehand and strides through center ice on the left wing side. Zog with speed and some space. Threw it to the front. A loose puck fought off by Hanlon, and a rebound controlled by Gigi Marmon. Transition time for Minnesota, and a 3-on-2 if they hurry. Right wing side, it's Filipchek playmaking. Trying to center, but Alicia Matthews on her knees got in the way of that, and it winds up in the near corner as Wisconsin recovers defensively. Blankenship, though, keeps it pinned down for the moment. Tries to step underneath Matthews down low. Gets help from Filipchek, who put it to the front, but only Badgers manning the crease, and Wisconsin gets the clear.
Wisconsin had 4 girls in front of the net, and Flipper just threw it right out, and there's no one else was there but 4 red jerseys sitting there waiting for the puck.
And icing going to be the call here on Minnesota. So 6:08 to go in the first period. Wisconsin up by a count of 1-0. Zog from Bauer and Duggan 33 seconds in is the only tally we have. Brian Schultz, and the other voice you're hearing is former Gopher great Natalie Darwitz, whose more than life-size picture is over there on the wall, not too far from us.
Yeah, it looks good. They just added Kelly Stevens up there, and now it's complete, the mural of Olympians. It looks great. It's awesome.
Off the draw, Minnesota controls, and Anya Miller banks it all the way down. Good angle by Miller, went right on goal, so no icing.
I think they're running our special play there, and I don't think the forwards knew about it. It was a good angle by Anya, though.
Far corner, 2-on-2 scrap in the Badger zone. Minnesota wins it free. Miller has it teed up. Let's fly on the wrist shot, and Dufour makes the pad stop.
Nice shot by Anya just to get it to the net. A little snapshot, and just got to get a few more Minnesota players crashing that net, but Dufour did a good job of not letting her rebound go, so good job to her.
Jessie Vedder, as a freshman, was really the hero in the NCAA tournament a year ago, but Wisconsin stays to a strict platoon. They have Vedder, the sophomore, and Dufour, the senior, who have been splitting time all season.
Vedder was my Lake Placid roommate last weekend. She's a night owl. All she does is watch MTV. Good kid, though. Very nice girl.
And she's already got, well, put it this way, she can only go downhill in NCAA tournament play the rest of her career. 3 games, no goals allowed, so. And that included a double or 1 goal allowed, in a double overtime game. So call it 3 games and 2/3 and only 1 goal, so.
Not bad. Credentials right there.
Here comes Megan Mickelson walking to the front. Nice little wrist shot, and Hanlon makes an awkward save and holds on. To the offensive instincts of Mickelson. First 2 years as a forward, last 2 years as a defenseman, and she's actually the leading scorer on the blue line this year. 27 points in 21 games. And I guess that's the irony of making the position switch. She's actually putting up better offensive numbers at the blue line than she was up front.
That's impressive to go from offense to defense. I don't think I could do it. I can't even skate backwards, so I don't know. That's pretty impressive that she can do both and be successful.
We'll hear her talk about it in the second intermission. Her initial reaction was she was shocked that she was asked to make the switch, but it's been a successful one. And you look at this team last year, I know you know Molly Engstrom quite well from the national team, so I probably knew Nicole Ulias when she trained with you back in 2001. So, to lose those 2 players and lose Carla McLeod, there were holes to be filled. They asked Mickelson to fill one, and she's done that and then some.
That's awesome.
Off the draw, Minnesota controls. Puck pops high in the air, stays in play against the back glass, so down comes Duggan to play it. Massachusetts native kicks it out to Whitting. On the swing to Mickelson. A wrist shot. No screen in front. Handling the easy stick stop. Zog handling far corner. Kicks it back out to Mickelson. Again, let's fly. This time with traffic in front, and it goes just wide. Near side, Wacker takes a look around her. She bumps it down low to Zebra with 4.5 to go in the first period, and Zog's 17th is still the difference. It's 1-0 Wisconsin as Nicholson drags it through a defender at center, walks to the faceoff circle and blasts away, but the stick of Nicholson got in the way of it as Wacker threw it back in front. Nobody was home, and Wisconsin escapes on the far side. Nichols controlling at center, the quick turnabout, lobbing the backhand pass, but Bauer was in the passing lane as she was headed off on a change, and so it's Klutzian for the Badgers instead, dumping it deep on left wing. Klutzian followed up by Willie. Nice job by Willie to reach around her and push it nicely to Wacker. Wacker gains center ice, but she's at the end of her shift, so she'll deposit it into the zone and head for the bench.
Be safe and get it deep, better than skating it down and losing it at the red line. Good play by Wack.
Rachel Bible, far corner, trouble in the form of Gigi Marvin. Here comes Filipchek, sharp angle shot, save, rebound by Blankenship, and she batted it just wide on the follow. Gigi Marvin down low, still has possession behind the net, kicks it out. Maunu, nice swing to Miller, looks at what she has. The wrister does not go through as Matthews got a stick in the way of it.
Nice keep by Anya right there, protecting her body from the puck and keeping the puck in the offensive zone.
One of the better sustained sequences of offense for this Gopher team in the first period, still looking for their first goal of the game, but now have 4 shots to show for their efforts as Blankenship chases behind the net. Beaten to it by a half stride by Rachel Bible. Could not clear though as Blankenship gets back to position along the blue line. And it's knocked down again for a long distance offering, this time by Marvin. That's swallowed up by Dufour.
There's a little bit of a mismatch there. We had Minnesota's first line out, I believe, against Wisconsin's third line. And they created a couple scoring opportunities. So good mismatch of lines there for Minnesota.
Faceoff will stay down by the net of Dufour. Reminder, in the first intermission, you will hear from both head coaches, Mark Johnson and Laura Halderson. Badgers with a 1-0 lead right here. Winners of 5 of the last 6 in this meeting. The one tie actually looked for the world like it was going to be a Badger victory. Minnesota scoring twice in the final 2 minutes, including a goal with 2 seconds left in regulation to salvage a point at the Kohl Center. Rolling puck down to the Gopher end, handled by Dagny Willie. Angles it near side through the stick of the intended receiver, Francis, and it's Kristen Whitting. Going to go rink wide to Tia Hansen on the far side. Keesley there as well. And Keesley on the backhand bats the rolling puck down deep to the Gopher end with 2.5 to go in the first. Whitney Graff up the wall. Hansen intercepts. Lobs back to Keesley outside the far ring. Keesley cycling to Hansen. Hansen trying to reverse it. Chopping at it was Nicholson as she came pinching. Broken up though, and here's Brittany Francis the other way. Francis gets turned around and just throws it all the way down on the net of Dufour, who leaves it for Emily Morris.
Wisconsin is just so good at holding on to the puck. You know, if there's no other option, then they'll dump it in. But they hold on to the puck, create puck possession as long as they can, and then they'll, worst case scenario, dump it in, which is not a bad idea. Whereas Minnesota right now is just kind of every time they get in the puck, dumping it off somewhere, and I think that's a big key right now in the teams.
Collision outside the far ring as Giles and Horton got together. Puck wanders to center ice, neither team with an advantage. Anya Miller feeling heat from Jasmine Giles. The Badgers have numbers if they can get control, and they do. Charging after it as Hanlon makes a nice pad save to deny Kyla Sanders.
Hanlon again makes another key save for Minnesota.
Might have to make one more, but Anya Miller recovers to lift the stick of Sanders this time as Giles again got it to the front. Jasmine Giles had a pretty good first period for herself. Near side, it's Wacker. Wacker finds space in the form of Jamie Horton. Horton trying to settle down a bouncing puck on the far side, pushes it behind the Wisconsin net. As we come up on the final minute of the opening period, Badgers with a 1-0 lead, and this capacity crowd at Ritter Arena has not had a chance to explode as of yet. Bauer through center, 2-on-3. Good back checking from Filipchek to break that up. Now pressure from Marvin as she tries to force the issue in the offensive zone, but Matthews peels it away from the Gopher sophomore star. On the far side now it's Duggan. Rink wide on the near boards to Janelle Zog. Zog stick handling over the line. Walks down below the end line. Pushes it free to the far corner. A couple of Gophers waiting for her, but she works it free to Bible. Bible clashes with Marvin. Duggan there for the Badgers, as is Zog. Kind of a stalemate with half a minute to go in the period. Finally fished free by Marvin, but it goes to the stick of Bauer. Nice backhand pass on the no look, but Duggan couldn't quite catch out, and it's wrapped to the near side.
Sarah Bauer, just phenomenal vision for the ice. Not one of the fastest or strongest players out there, but definitely one of the smartest, and that's what makes her so good, is just her vision for the ice. Phenomenal.
She's playmaking here, leaving for Duggan behind the net with 8 seconds to go in the period. Badgers trying to craft one final opportunity. Duggan leaves it for Bauer, but they're not going to get the shot off here as the horn will sound. And so Janelle Zog's goal on the one-timer, 33 seconds into the first period. All we have on the board thus far, Wisconsin has itself a 1-0 lead.
Good first period. Obviously, the first shift kind of put Minnesota back on their heels, giving up that goal early, but they turned it around halfway through the first and got some good opportunities and just need to keep shooting the puck. And, you know, Wisconsin's kind of controlling the play a little bit and more puck possession for them, too. So hopefully next period will be just as good, maybe even a few more shots, too.
So 1-0 Wisconsin after one. As promised, had a chance to catch up with both head coaches earlier this week. First up, Mark Johnson, then Laura Halderson. You're listening, as always, to the USCHO Game of the Week. 1-0 Badgers after one. My guest is Wisconsin head coach Mark Johnson. Badgers back to work after the holiday break this weekend against rival Minnesota. And Coach, let's kind of give me the mid-year progress report. You've always stressed getting better week to week, month to month, game to game. The record is certainly outstanding as you try to defend this championship. Where do you, kind of how do you feel about where the team stands right now?
Well, I think, the first half went pretty well. I've talked to a couple other coaches around the country, and the common theme seems to be it was a good time to take a break. We started a little bit earlier this year. We already have played 20 games, so I think the break came at a good time for a lot of teams just to, get finals, get home, relax a little bit, and then get ready for the second half push. So, we had a good first half, but as you mentioned, the bar has been raised, and you certainly want to keep getting better. And it's a lot more difficult and challenging, I believe, the second half of the year than it is the first half. And so, hopefully the girls are going to respond, and I certainly enjoyed the way we've practiced the last couple of days, and I'm looking forward to the next 7 weekends.
Right before the break, you had an interesting series against St. Cloud, and we saw something very uncharacteristic of your team, which was you had a 3-0 lead in that second game. You let it get away. It's only the second time since you've been the head coach that's actually happened. You have to go back a couple seasons for the other occurrence. Was that just one of those things, or was there a real lesson you hope your players learned from that?
Well, I think every game has its own story, and that certainly was a game that, as we left the rink, we were disappointed in just because we had played so well for 40 minutes. And I'm sure you've seen enough hockey, and you've seen, what looks like a comfortable lead. All of a sudden, one bounce here and a mistake there, and it's 3-2, and then, you give up a late goal to let them tie. So it was a change in momentum, and sometimes the last 7 or 8 minutes of the game, if the momentum's not in your favor, funny things can happen. But at the same time, it hopefully is a lesson that we talked about that the players learned and can understand. And if they put themselves in a position like that again, they can finish things out.
The holiday break is something you go through every year. You mentioned it coming at a good time, but, you get back to work. You're playing a rival school this weekend. It's a very important game, obviously. From your experience, what are some of the keys to a team kind of successfully taking care of itself over the break so that you're sharp coming back?
Well, the most important thing is the conditioning level. The sport we're involved in, it takes a while to get yourself not only into game shape but into top condition. Unfortunately, it doesn't take too long of a break to get out of shape. And so, we try to harp on our players to be responsible and, try to exercise and do something on a daily basis while they're away from us during the break. And, then you come back and, you get your 4 or 5 or 6 practices in. And, each one gets a little bit better. But anytime you take, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days off, it's almost like starting over.
Now, coming back from the break, you're not going to have one of your key cogs this weekend because of Canada under-22 duties. Bobby Jo Slusser will be away. What's going to be, the toughest thing to replace or compensate for not having her out there in multiple situations?
Well, like you say, multiple. She's plays a big part in our power play and obviously kills penalties and is equally as well 5-on-5. So, it's tough to replace those minutes. But at the same time, other kids are getting an opportunity to play those roles. And, that's what you need to ask of those kids is to step up their play and, try to contribute in any way they can to try to take those minutes that we're going to miss from Bobby Jo and hopefully not be affected. But, we're confident in what we have, and hopefully we'll be able to come out tomorrow night and get the cobwebs off and play solid for 60 minutes.
You have certainly had the upper hand in the rivalry the last couple of meetings, including that NCAA championship game. But, you go back to the very last time you played, they were able to kind of maybe steal a point off you, a couple late goals at the Kohl Center in the back end of that one. What are some of the keys to going back into their barn and keeping success against the Gophers coming?
Well, we just have to continue to build on what our strengths are and, move the puck and try to play a real high-tempo, speed type of game. That's when we're successful. When we're working hard and we're moving the puck, we can generate some pretty good scoring opportunities. And certainly, our last game against Minnesota left a bitter taste in a lot of players' mouth because it's similar to St. Cloud where, we're up 3-1 with a minute to go in the game. And, like I say, when you've been around hockey, you see funny things happen. And that was certainly one of those afternoons where, they made it 3-2 on a sort of a soft type of goal. And then they pulled their goalie and tied it up with 2 seconds to go. But they were very excited, and they came back in a game that it didn't look like they were going to get any points, and they got a point. So hopefully this weekend the games will be as equally as exciting as they've been since I started at Wisconsin. They're a lot of fun to be involved in, not only from a player standpoint, but from a coaching standpoint. It's a fun place to come up and play.
Last question for you. You spent a good portion of your holiday break at work, if you will, on a side job, and that was in Lake Placid managing the national team. And, this was really the first chance you had to really work with people in a practice environment and a training environment as opposed to the Four Nations Cup. So now that you've kind of been immersed in that for a while, give me, I guess, one, impressions of the talent you had on hand, and then two, the primary message that you tried to get across to your players.
Well, I think, we've got some young players that certainly have an opportunity to become very good hockey players, if they're willing to put the time and energy into, the training part of it, the conditioning part of it, and just trying to improve themselves as players. And so, the camp was a good eye-opener for a lot of people just because, when you get young players on the ice with some of our elite players, Natalie Darwitz and Chrissy Wendell and Molly Engstrom and some of our Olympic players, it's a great environment for kids to really watch and see how these top players that we have on our U.S. roster, conduct themselves on a daily basis. So it's very exciting for these young players to get involved in the program. And, we had four Minnesota players, I had 4 or 5 Wisconsin players. You had a bunch of kids from out east that for the first time got a chance to skate with these elite players and see what it takes. In the journey it involves in becoming an elite player, and it's not something that happens overnight. It's something that takes time, it takes commitment, and you have to put a lot of energy into it. And so I was real excited when I left camp. We had a good end of the camp meeting, and hopefully the players will keep that excitement as they continue to train.
Wisconsin head coach Mark Johnson. Coach, thanks, as always, for a few minutes of your time. Best of luck to you and your Badgers getting back to work this weekend.
Thanks. It should be fun.
Yes. My guest is Minnesota head coach Laura Halderson, Gophers winners of 10 straight, back from the winter holiday break against defending national champion Wisconsin this weekend. And, Coach, I imagine, you never swear off a holiday break, but your team was going pretty good when you hit the turn of the season. Give me a sense of some of the keys of this team turning, a 4-3-1 mark into a 14-3-1 mark.
Well, I think early in the season you always, and I think it's probably true every year, you're kind of developing your team's identity, and players are figuring out what their roles are, and that's an evolution, and it sort of takes some time, I think, for the dust to settle and a team to come together. And I thought we did a nice job of that the first semester, and became more consistent, had good leadership going, and some good balanced scoring. And so we're looking forward to continuing that trend and keep getting better as we head here down the stretch.
In the scoring department, you have been without one of your key cogs in Erica McKenzie for much of that stretch. It hasn't stopped the team from winning. It hasn't stopped the team from scoring. Now that she's back, how much of a help, I guess, or a silver lining to the fact that you were able to do so well without her in there?
Yeah, it was a testament to the depth of our team and really the character and the hard work that our players put into things, because Mac missed 6 games there at the end, and we had other people step up. And now that we're getting her back, that's huge for us, especially since Bobby Ross will be out this weekend. And, I think that's the mark of a good team. If you can make up for the loss of some good players by having other people step up and get the job done, that's a good sign for us, and it should help us in the long run.
Another player who made her reappearance shortly before the break was Kim Hanlon. Got her in there for a couple of starts. She was able to win both of those. How far along is she in her recovery? Is she back to 100% at this point?
Well, we were fortunate that in the end there we had both Brittany Chartier and Kim Hanlon contributing, and they're both 2 good goaltenders. Kim's injury is sort of a tough one because it's one of those nagging things, and honestly, she's still not 100% and playing with some pain, but she's a tough kid, and she's doing what she has to do, and I think she'll continue to contribute and be successful for us.
You mentioned the balanced scoring, and one of the fixtures within that has been the veteran line of Andrea Nichols, Whitney Graff, and Becky Wacker, which we actually talked about a couple months ago, and they've continued to put up numbers. I want to focus on Whitney Graff for a moment. Here's a player who came in, didn't have much of a role a couple years ago, and increased her totals last year. Her next point this year is going to be a new career high. Talk a bit about her progression through the program.
Yeah, Whitney Graff is a great story. I mean, she's someone who came here from my alma mater while I was out of high school and really wasn't guaranteed a whole lot in terms of playing time and contribution. And she had to work hard that freshman year without a lot of, success or playing time. And that was a tough role for a kid who was, one of the best players on her high school team. But a real testament to her character and her attitude. She just worked hard in the off season. Probably did more than any other player in our program, and came back her sophomore year and really contributed a regular shift, got some big goals for us, and she's continued that progress. And I think now, like you mentioned, with her line mates Becky Wacker and Andrea Nichols, that line is doing a fantastic job for us. They're playing consistently. They're all hard workers. They're smart hockey players, and they play well together. And Whit's a huge part of that, especially as a center on that line. She has a big role in the defensive zone, playing defense in our own end, and then being the playmaker that she is. She's done some great things for us as a junior.
So now you're coming back off the holiday break, and this is something you go through every year, which is having to take a couple of weeks off and then find your rhythm on the other side. And this time around, you're having to do it against the defending NCAA champion without a couple of your key players. So from your experience, what are some of the keys to a successful transition from a couple of weeks off to getting right back on the ice and right back into things?
Well, it's really more than a couple of weeks since our last series was the December 8th and 9th week, and it's been quite a while. But, I'm a big believer in giving the team a big chunk of time off to kind of rejuvenate themselves and take a break from hockey and school and the whole thing. And then they come back, I think, more excited and hungrier to start the second half of the year. Now, we had several players who skated with the USA Hockey Camp and the Canadian Under-22. It's not like everybody got that whole time off to rest. But it's probably not an ideal situation to start the second half against Wisconsin, who's defending national champions. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a great series. Our players have come back in good shape, excited and rejuvenated, which was the goal, like I mentioned. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, very exciting. And, first place in the WCHA is what's at stake.
As for the opponent, Wisconsin certainly very familiar with them. They've clearly had the upper hand the last couple of meetings. Having said that, you were able to take a point off them in fairly dramatic fashion in the last game at the Kohl Center. So give me some keys and expectations to Chapter 2 this weekend.
Yeah, that was a great finish, that game you mentioned, when we scored 2 goals with 1:12 left. The second one coming with 2 seconds on the clock in regulation. And, I think we went away from that game feeling pretty good about it. Wisconsin maybe thinking they let one slip away. So that was a big point for us on the road against a very good team, and it was a while back. So, I think both teams have probably grown and changed and evolved since then, and we'll see where we are now. But, if you saw some of the scores in our league before break, it's pretty much anything can happen any given weekend. And so we know they're good. We know we're a pretty good hockey team too, and I think we're going in with confidence, knowing that they're going to be at Ritter Arena, and we're going to have our fans backing us up.
Minnesota head coach Laura Halderson. Coach, as always, thanks very much for a few minutes. Best of luck to you and your Gophers getting back to work this weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thoughts of Mark Johnson and Laura Halderson. Badgers with the 1-0 lead after one period of play. The only goal came very quickly, 27 seconds in to be precise. Janelle Zog from Megan Duggan to Sarah Bauer. A tic-tac-toe play. Bauer down low to Duggan, who quickly threw it in front, and Zog one-timed it past for her 17th of the season. shots on goal in that period. Fairly modest totals for both teams, bearing out the prediction of my partner, Natalie Darwitz. 8 shots for Wisconsin, just 6 for Minnesota. I want to go back to a point you made on several occasions about Minnesota looking to make a play with the puck as opposed to just sort of getting that puck right on net. You have a lot of skilled players out there. You're certainly one of those as well. How difficult is it to make an adjustment where normally you might look to make that move, might look to dangle or drag past the defender, and you're up against a team where you know that the minute you've got it anywhere in a shooting angle, you just got to let it go?
Yeah, I think it's habit, myself included, to make that extra move, and then get it taken away. But you just got to realize, get the puck on net first. Things happen by getting the puck on net, and that's the key to this hockey game that Minnesota has to create right now, is stop the little dangles, here and there, the little moves. Just, if you got the puck in the slot, fire it, get it on net, have your other teammates go to the net. It's pretty, it's easy to talk about, for me sitting up 300 feet away from the rink, but that's an adjustment you have to make right now, especially against a tough Wisconsin defensive-minded team. They're solid. They work their way from the goal out, and that's how they're taught. And they're not gonna let that go right now and just play offensive hockey. They know the limitations, and they're very well coached, and they're not gonna give up that goal right there. So Minnesota's just gotta shoot the puck right now. Hopefully things will happen.
Well, the one thing we haven't seen is a penalty, and I go back to your junior year when you played Wisconsin. The one area where you really were able to outclass Wisconsin was on special teams. A lot of those games, with the power play you had, I don't think there was a penalty kill on earth that could have held you in check for 60 minutes, let alone a weekend series. And in a number of those games, it came down to special teams. We haven't seen a single special team situation yet here today.
No, that's pretty impressive, actually. It's a good, clean game right now, and I like to see that. But obviously, when I used to play for the Gophers, it was capitalize on the power play, and then you got Wisconsin on their heels. So hopefully, we can see a power play here and there, and hopefully it'll open the game up a little bit. But obviously, it's great having no penalties. It's a good, clean hockey game. That's the way it should be played.
Flip check on the wraparound, thrown to the front, splitting his Dufour. It's still loose outside the low slot, and finally picked away by Duggan, but not cleared. So Minnesota on the first shift quickly gets a scoring opportunity. And Sarah Bauer in her own end looks to restore some order, lobs it on ahead. Reaching for it was Duggan. A rolling puck at the Minnesota insignia is taken back by Erica McKenzie. And McKenzie on left wing. Going to whistle here for a late offsides call on the Gophers.
McKenzie looks pretty good considering coming back from a very serious knee injury. She's moving well out there, but like the rest of the crew, they got to get the puck to the net and go wide and use their speed.
There probably was a silver lining out of that injury. You have a player who had 27 goals, was the team's leading scorer a year ago, and yet Minnesota was able to win every single game that she did not play, so other players able to step up and gain some experience in better roles.
Yeah, that's what happens when a top player goes down. Other players have to step up, and that's a very positive thing that happened with Minnesota. Is, when she went down, other players step up and create opportunity for themselves. So that's a very positive thing for the Gophers that happened to them.
Near circle, Rachel Bible. No one in front. Sticked aside by Hanlon. Puck rolls back into the crease area on the far side. Minnesota trying to clear. It's held for the moment. Now between the circles, a late opens up. Hansen feathers it toward the net. We got our first penalty here as a Badger came crashing and was bowled over from behind by a Gopher defender. I believe that's Manu who's down in the crease, and the call is going to be made that sends Wisconsin to the power play for the first time.
Excited to see Wisconsin's power play, what they do, and how they set it up, and obviously, with having their top defenseman gone, how they're going to make an adjustment. But I expect good things out of their power play, and hopefully Minnesota can kill just as equal.
Well, this will be interesting because the typical setup, they put Bauer in the quarterback position, but they do it along the faceoff circle, and they go to that umbrella, and they want Sluicer's one-timer up top. They don't have that available today, so we'll see if there's an adjustment. And indeed there is. It looked like there's 2 players now along the blue line as Mickelson steps through for a wrist shot, and that did not go through the bodies in front.
Shot was there. It was a good shot. Just got caught up in someone's jersey.
Mickelson rotates it to the near side, but it's tipped out of play. And what you saw with Wisconsin's power play last year in the tournament was people knew Sluicer's one-timer was coming, so they cheated up high to deny that. And what that wound up doing was, of course, it opened up a seam for Sarah Bauer right in the center of the ice.
Sounds familiar, playing a couple years ago. Take out Lindsey Wall, you got Wendell. Take out Wendell, you got, Mira Kelly-Stevens. So it sounds like these guys are pretty potent. And can't leave a player alone in front of the net.
Mickelson with a drive, and they score. Duggan was in front. Not sure she tipped it, but it trickles on through on the near side. And just like that, there's that Wisconsin power play. Even without Bobby Jo Slusser up top, it's Mickelson the trigger, and it's 2-0 Badgers.
Not sure what happened there, but off the face-off, Dugan went right to the net all alone, and I think she tipped that, made a nice tip on that slap shot. So, I don't know, a big breakdown for Minnesota right there.
And the box zone was there, but nobody went with the player to the front, and Mickelson quickly took advantage, had a good low shot away, and Hanlon trying to adjust. It hit something. It did not go directly through. Whether it caught a piece of Hanlon or whether it caught a piece of Duggan, we'll wait for the official scoring, but Wisconsin with a goal early in the first, and now a power play tally early in the second. They have a 2-0 lead.
See how Minnesota responds after that penalty kill, see what they can do.
So it is Duggan picking up the tip. Good eyes, Natalie. That's her 14th of her freshman season, as Mickelson will pick up the primary assist on the power play. And I mentioned Wisconsin 31% on the season. They add to their totals with now their 33rd power play goal of the year.
The next goal is going to be huge. Either going to be Wisconsin and Minnesota's going to have a big hole to climb out of, or Minnesota can make it 2-1 and can have a game here. Next goal is really, really crucial.
And if you're Minnesota, you got to really be on your guard. The last couple times these teams have played, Wisconsin has had a tendency to score in rapid succession. Last night, a bit of a fluky play, but they were able to score a second and third goal 10 seconds apart in the game when actually what seemed like a dump-in kind of bounced off a Minnesota defenseman's stick in and went into the net as Brittany Chartier was retreating to the corner to play it. So
love when that happens.
But talking to associate head coach Brad Frost, he said, 3 of the last 4 times they've played, Wisconsin has had a stretch of 2 minutes where they've managed to score multiple goals. So that's something Minnesota has to cut down here if they harbor aspirations of winning the game. Gophers on the dump down. Mickelson fields behind her own net, leaving for Alicia Matthews with 3 minutes gone in the second. And it's Zog and Duggan on the board for the Badgers. Minnesota still searching for the goal-scoring formula as Sanders hit the side of the net. There was room there for her to work with as she went up high and just caught the outside of the cage.
Kayla Sanders can score, too. She proved that last week at the USA Hockey Camp. She can snipe, and she almost had an opportunity right there and just missed the upper right corner.
It says something on the defending national championship team when you got a couple of freshman forwards who already have double-digit goals coming in to a squad, which they lost some players, but they brought back an awful lot from that team.
That's great if you're Wisconsin. It's tough if you're any other school, for sure, if you see that. Freshmen coming in and scoring double digits. Watch out.
Face off to Dufour's right. Dufour 7 for 7 on save opportunities. Jamie Horton behind the net. Chips it out top. Manu steps into a drive. Did not go through. Drops the stick of Nichols. Feathers a backhander that went off the glove of Dufour. Nichols leaves behind the net. Wacker trying to return it to her second-year captain. Nichols fighting hard in among the trees. Always feisty. The senior forward, only 5'2", spinning with the puck down low. Monitored by Emily Morris. Bauer had her stick tied up. Now the puck gets lost in the skates of Jay Mendel down low. Is finally wrapped free. Manu holds the blue line a little while longer. And the chase is back on behind the Badger cage. Morris sending it near side. Bounces away from Duggan right to the stick of Horton. Horton on the backhand. Turns the corner. Didn't get much on the shot as Dufour made the pad stop. And it's wrapped up the wall. But again held nicely by Miller. Wrist shot through traffic. There was a nice tip from Horton that went just high. Good sustained pressure. Nichols on the wraparound. Save is made. Puck is still loose. And a good whistle for the Badgers as Dufour did not have that one covered.
Great pressure by Minnesota. I think Wisconsin just might have took an undisciplined penalty in front of the net. So it might get to see Minnesota's power play right now.
Minnesota very respectable, 21%. You're right. Emily Morris is headed to the box. And Wisconsin, that is one of the greatest testaments to their team. Very disciplined team. They take less than 5 penalties per game. This weekend, however, a little bit out of character. Last night, Minnesota actually was the recipient of a major power play. And now Wisconsin picking up its first of the afternoon here after the whistle. So
there's a fine line between protecting your goalie and taking a cheap shot, and I think the emotions got the best of Wisconsin there.
Oh, quick shot off the draw, blocked in front and quickly cleared. So it's Miller and McKenzie on the points. Blankenship, Marvin, and Wacker out there up front. Looks like Lawler, Keasley, Whitting, and Mickelson will start on the PK here as Wisconsin is 1 for 1. And Minnesota looking to respond, down 2-0 with coming up on 5 gone by in the second. Right wing side, Anya Miller leading the charge. Junior defenseman. Wraps it around near side of Gigi Marvin. Marvin feeling pressure from Keesley. Keesley forces the turnover and gets the clear, but a bad break for the Badgers as her clearance went right into the bench.
Hate when that happens. You finally get the puck on a PK and you shoot it out and face-off still in your zone. So, nice opportunity, but still in Wisconsin's zone for the power play.
Many changes here as Dagny Willie will come over the boards and join the power play festivities. It's still Lawler and Marvin on the draw. Wisconsin had the edge in the first period, 8-4 in faceoffs, and Lawler was the best among Badgers centers, 4 for 5. And as McKenzie comes back to handle in her own end with 1:15 to go on the Morris Minor, but telegraphed that pass, and Mickelson preying on it, comes up with the steal. Megan Mickelson traveling down low against Dagny Willie. And now Marvin comes over to take possession. Leaving now for Willie in front of her own cage. Up the center of the ice on the head man to Kelly Blankenship. Blankenship accelerating over the line on left wing. Maneuvering to the corner. Nice lead for Wacker. Angled shot. And Dufour makes the stop as Giles collects the carom. Takes her time and banks it all the way down.
Nice pass by Blankenship. Very heads up, crafty player. The thing about Minnesota's power play right now is they're just coming down and shooting and not really setting up the power play. And Wisconsin just dumps it back down the ice. So not really a clean power play right now going from Minnesota.
Only half a minute to work with. Wisconsin, as you'd expect, excellent on the kill, 90% for the season. Far side is Brittany Francis. Francis stick handling nicely through center, gains the line with clean possession. Francis on the right wing side, throwing to the front. A jam attempt as Dufour fights off Filipchek in front. Francis on the carom, uses the outlet in Willie. Near circle, Whitney Graf. Backdoor attempt from Filipchek, caromed off Francis and wide. Nichols, goal line extended, final seconds of the 5-on-4. Filipchek trying to possess down low, had it bounce off her stick, chipped up the wall, but not out as Willie holds, and here comes Morris out of the box. Filipchek to the circle, that's broken up. Bounced off the wall by Bible, and now Wisconsin is back to center and back to full strength, still with their 2-0 lead intact. Filipchek, though, trying to change that on the attack, left wing side, threw it toward the front, pinballed off the legs of Bible and went to the far side.
Great heads-up play by Filipchek. Everyone was going to the net. She just stopped and waited for everyone to flow to go to the net and just took a nice little shot on net. Good opportunity.
Nichols draws a penalty here in the high slot as she was trying to turn the corner and get to the front. Harassed from behind, and that bit of interference just enough to draw a holding minor. And it looks like Emily Morris might have picked up her second infraction of the afternoon, so she will head to the box once again, and we'll see if Minnesota can do any better on their second 5-on-4.
Yep, we got another shot at it, and another opportunity to capitalize and make this like a close game. But you got Lawler out there killing. That's pretty tough to kill against that crafty little fast player. She always has her stick in the passing lanes and flying through the center ice, so she's tough to be out there against power play.
I'm sensing some allegiance to small, crafty players out of someone who's not too tall herself.
Yeah, I'm biased to the small kids. I'll be honest.
Brittany Francis up to another mighty mite, Janelle Filipchek. Filipchek from your high school, as I alluded to at the outset, dropping it in deep.
Go Egan High School.
3 on the puck. They have a pretty good coach, too, don't they?
Time to time. My dad. We'll see.
Up top, Anya Miller. Near side, Whitney Graf. Down low to Filipchek. Filipchek has plenty of space and time behind the net. Nichols trying to turn it quickly in front. Broken up by Whitting. Whitting wraps it neatly to Lawler. Lawler has time. Uses the backhand to get the clear. Hits the linesman's skates, so it didn't really go very far. But still, a minute 12 to go on the second Minnesota power play. Gophers still down a pair. Zog and Duggan on the power play here in the second. And it's 2-0 Wisconsin. Minnesota threatening here. 5-on-4. Willie up top. Gathers. Slides to Francis. Motion in front. Willie on the one-timer. Nobody in front. Now Marvin steps to the doorstep. And it's shut down by Christine Dufour as Lawler rockets it around the boards,
nice
but not out.
Keep by Dagny Willie right there on the blue line. Keep it in.
Up Marvin trying to make the toe drag move in the slot. Was dispossessed by Lawler, and Lawler gets a clean clear this time.
Good opportunity by Gigi Marvin in front of the net. Big strong forward.
Or a miss hockey as McKenzie in front of her own net. Now circles behind the cage with Bauer monitoring. Only a half minute to go on the power play. Still 2-0 Wisconsin. Turnover forced at center as Wacker was double teamed and Jasmine Giles out there on the PK. Saucers it deep. Willie shielding Giles from the puck as she moves up the left wing side. Deferring now to McKenzie, who leaves in turn for Wacker. Wacker puts 1 foot over the red line and slides it deep. Lively carom right to Rachel Bible. No one around her, so she'll fire it all the way back down, and that's going to just about do it for the second Emily Morris minor. Wisconsin very clean on its 2 penalty kills and still have a 2-0 lead. Brittany Francis, far side of the offensive zone, stood up by Alicia Matthews. Matthews kicks it free to Zog. Zog racing up the ice 2-on-3 with Duggan. Zog on left wing on the forehand, centering to the front. Duggan catches up to it from an angle, works her way to the far side wall, and starts the cycle as Emily Kranz joins the proceedings. Kranz, another Badger freshman, leaving for her classmate. Duggan has some room, trying to step out in front. Finally lost on the poke check, and Minnesota gets the clear. Micah Nordby, D-to-D Megan Mickelson. Kranz swats it over the line, right to Maggie Shoba. Rotates it to Miller. Miller lobs on ahead. Touch was applied by Francis. No icing here as Mickelson tracks it behind her own net. As we come up on the midway point of the hockey game, Janelle Zog and Megan Duggan have the game's only goals. 2-0 Wisconsin. Brian Schultz, Natalie Darwitz on hand at Ritter Arena. A near-capacity crowd. The first sellout in school history, but so far Wisconsin's done a great job of keeping the home fans in check.
Yeah, like it's kind of dead in here. Not many opportunities to get up and cheer for the home team. So hopefully Minnesota can muster up something here and get this crowd in the game.
Reset the action from the Wisconsin end. Shots on goal. Minnesota has taken a slight advantage here, courtesy of their most recent power plays. Now 13 shots for them, 11 for the Badgers. It's Marvin and Lawler on the draw. And Marvin wins it cleanly, but splits her 2-point players, and it goes back to center ice where Mounty will have to retrieve.
One of the most frustrating things, you want to draw clean, but goes right out of the zone. So kind of frustrating as a center.
Lawler dipsy-doodling through the neutral zone, lost to Filipchek, and Marvin pushes it over the line. Before behind her own net, winds it around far side to Keesley. Keesley, short distance pass to Lawler. In traffic, was tripped up as she tried to move through center ice, supported though by Keesley. Keesley has a trailer and Hansen. Lawler's there as well, and pinballs off her skates before she could get a shot away. Winds up in the corner, which is taken by Dagny Willett. Willie up the wall to Blankenship. Dangerous pass in front of her own net. Turning and firing was Hansen, and Kim Hanlon makes the glove save.
Another nice save by Kim. Minnesota's D is being really passive. They're letting Wisconsin go wide and kind of set up a play while they just kind of stare at them. I think Minnesota's D needs to be more aggressive, go after the girl. And, the forwards will take the second flow coming in.
Pretty good shot from Hansen. Her momentum was going one way. Was able to stop, turn, and fire, and Hanlon forced to reach for the glove save as Wisconsin wins the ensuing draw with 9:10 to go in the second, still with a 2-0 lead. Alexandra Zebro rides a forward down deep as Zog tries to walk to the front, lost on a stick check. Bauer steps onto in the near corner, rolls away from her in turn, and Jamie Horton chops it all the way down. Go the distance for an icing call, and there's the whistle. Minnesota with a quick change as McKenzie's line will come back out. And Kim Hanlon, who you heard Laura Alderson say she is not 100%. She suffered that ankle injury against Wisconsin way back in the WCHA final last year. And just complications in the rehab process, was not able to play until right before the holiday break. It was only her third game of the season, but just trying to gut things out for the time being.
It's good that she's back now and healthy and getting an opportunity to showcase, the type of goalie she is by making these great saves she has today.
Long distance save. Rebound is fought just wide by a charging Emily Kranz. Zebro lost her stick behind the net. Francis chops it free of the zone. And Hanlon really was one of the big stories last year. Brittany Chartier, certainly a much heralded recruit coming in, and Hanlon kind of forced her way into a platoon with outstanding play. As here's McKenzie with a chance, steps around a defender, went to the ice, got the call from Mickelson, and you could tell from Mickelson's reaction what she thought of that, as she's going to head to the box, and Minnesota's going to get her third power play. Yeah, it looked like Erica might have
helped out the call a little bit.
Might have drawn the attention, but that's okay.
Yeah, Mac cut into the slot and made an extra move again, and questionable penalty, I guess. But Minnesota goes back on the power play, and hopefully they can do something this time and get a couple scoring opportunities and pop one in.
Well, we continue to see what you talked about. They are continuing to try to drag past. They're trying to get to the center. So they're intent on getting to the slot as opposed to settling for the angled shot.
Which, goes both ways. But right now, when it's a 2-0 game, I don't think you should be, making an extra stick handling move.
Whitney Graff behind the net, monitored by Kristen Whitting, leaves for Nichols. Nichols has a cutter up top. It's Miller. Turns for the shot herself. Graff was there on the follow, but came up empty.
Whitney
Nichols
tries for the home run swing out of midair. That would have been pretty sweet if that would have went in.
Down low, it's Nichols. Right back to Graff. Graff in the near corner. With a minute and a half to go on the power play. Flipcheck lets it go on through to Anya Miller. Miller has a big shot, but hasn't let fly yet. Flipcheck down low. Graff turns, has an angle. Save is made. Dufour is pushed into the net. Whoa, comes up swinging after the whistle. And some near fisticuffs being applied after this one as Christine Dufour with some traffic in front took a couple of shots, and then you saw the glove come off the stick, and she pushed back. So we'll see what comes out of this sequence.
Yeah, a little scrum. Just Gophers trying to get the puck in the net, and Wisconsin defending their net. So obviously there's going to be a little scrum.
Looks like there's matching penalties.
I see Dugan and Whitney Graff go to the box together. So
Dufour is putting her equipment back together, and all started when Graff had some space open up for her in that low slot, and Dufour was not able to control the initial attempt, and that touched off a melee in the crease, and all of a sudden Dufour's glove kind of flashed up and made contact with a Gopher. The whistle blew, and then everything kind of broke loose, but only looks like matching minors, so probably stay 5-on-4s. All that came after the play had been blown dead.
Winnie did a great job. The puck came low down to her. She found herself all alone, so just took a step out on the goal crease and took a nice low shot and got a couple of rebounds there. So good play by Whitney and good puck move by the Gophers.
So Marvin now comes out with McKenzie, Blankenship, Wacker, and Miller, the top power play unit. Bauer over to confer with the officials. She'll head back to the bench as Whitting, Mickelson, Lawler, and Morris will stay on. Minnesota wins the draw and controls along the blue line. Far side, McKenzie. Right back to Miller. And a Marvin in the faceoff circle. Saucers it down low. Wacker in front. Sliding across was Morris to deny with 1:05 to go on the power play. Wacker puts her back to Morris. Leaves for Marvin in the corner. Marvin walking up the boards. Down low to Wacker. In front. Wrist shot up high. Save is made. Puck is loose. Squirts past Marvin on the weak side. She'll get to it in the corner. And she's canceled out by Morris.
Good puck move by Minnesota. Good give and go between Marvin and Wacker there. Just, again, not getting the bounce and not getting in the net.
Dufour has done what she's had to do with the first shot. Stayed square, and their defense is taking care of the rest. Minnesota has not gotten the puck luck they need as of yet to come up with the goal. Wisconsin still up 2-0. 6:45 to go in the second period. As McKenzie rockets it behind the cage with 25 seconds to go on Minnesota's third power play of the afternoon. Gophers have 2 on the puck in the far corner. Make that 3 as McKenzie comes over. Finally fished free by Blankenship. Kelly Blankenship behind the net. Finds Flipcheck near ring. Up top to Dagny Willie. Willie has the stick cocked. Doesn't shoot. Now to McKenzie. Wrist shot partially blocked. Bouncing puck. Tipped by the stick of Flipcheck to the far corner. Flipcheck playmaking behind the net. Partial change for Minnesota as Flipcheck moves up into the high slot. Wisconsin back to 5-on-5. Flipcheck with a shot. Kick save is made. And the stick of Matthews put it to the near corner as Wisconsin searches for the clear at 5-on-5.
Nice one-timer by Janelle Flipcheck. Even better save by Defer.
Minnesota still with possession. We got Flipcheck and Bauer tangled up in front as the puck rolls up on the side of the net, and we'll get the whistle.
Janelle was on Bauer's back there, wanting to ride to the bench.
That's one way to contain the Kazmaier winner.
Exactly, right? Just sit on her.
We'll have the draw to Dufour's left, but the bottom line is Minnesota improving its shot totals. They now have 12 in the second to just 6 in the first, most courtesy of that trio of power plays, but nothing on the board. Still 2-0 Wisconsin here, coming up on the final 5 minutes of period number 2.
The good thing is they got opportunities. I would be worried if they didn't get any opportunities in 3 power plays, but they had a few opportunities for some goals there, but just didn't get the last bank in the net.
And as you said earlier in the period, we're still at that juncture where the next goal is going to be critical. Minnesota has been bidding for it, but no luck thus far. Kristen Whitting around far side, Angie Keesley. St. Louis Park, Minnesota, leaving for Mickelson. Turned over to Nichols. In front, Wacker turns, and rotating over in the nick of time was Whitting to block the shot.
Great hustle by Andrea Nichols. Created turnover, found Wacker in front of the net, but the Wisconsin D just got to her in time to deflect the shot.
And now the matching minors to Duggan and Graff have expired, so both teams have all their personnel back at their disposal. They'll bring the draw back down by Dufour. So shots on goal in this period so far, 12 for Minnesota, just 5 for the Badgers. as Bauer comes out to take the defensive zone draw against Marvin. It's pushed toward Dufour, who puts the glove down on top of it, and she'll hold on.
Looks like Marvin and Bauer, two good people to have on a face-off. Good matchup.
Bauer gets the best of that one. And it's Wisconsin cleanly out of their own end as Megan Duggan leads the charge before losing on the post check at center to Dagny Willie. Lipchek scurrying after Rachel Bible. Lost her edge as Bible stayed up and held her ground. In comes Blankenship to help out on the near side, but now it's Duggan working her way out of the pile and feeding Bauer. Bauer navigating to the left wing side, has a trailer in Zog. Zog to the front, and Hanlon right there to swallow it up.
That way to shoot by Janelle Zog. Got the drop pass, just fired one quickly on net, and there's traffic in front of the net. That's what you got to do in these types of games. There's not a lot of offensive freedom. You just got to get the puck to the net, like I've been trying to say, all game. I could be totally wrong, too, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but, that's just what I see from up top.
I would take advice from Natalie Darvis about hockey any day of the week and twice on Sunday. So, face off to the right of Kim Hanlon. Off the draw, Michelle Maunoot and Kyla Sanders get together. Whitney Graff there as well. Graff feeling pressure from behind, but gets it over to Miller. Right back to Graff, harassed through center by Sanders, and there's the turnover. Jasmine Giles takes a moment to gather on left wing, hits the gopher line. Negotiates to the corner. Sanders cruises in front. Giles still with it as she scoops out the near side. Rachel Bible back to Giles, always in motion. Giles between the circles. A bouncing puck skips over the leg of Kim Hanlon down low. Now it's Sanders trying to power in front of the goal. Lost her edge. There's a penalty call. And Dufour will head to the bench as Wisconsin sends it deep, and Maunoot comes over to touch up.
It's a big kill right now for Minnesota. Obviously, Wisconsin's 1-for-1 on their power play, so it's a huge kill because if they go down 3-0, 3-0, it's going to be a tough road back.
It's a little thing. I don't think Minnesota ever touched that puck.
I don't think so either.
I think Mendel blew the whistle because he saw Maunoot over there. Maunoot missed that puck. It went right through the stick of a Badger player. There's no protest from Wisconsin. But
kind of like the Brad Shepard days when the hand's up in the air, so we have the puck. And playing against Duluth, we have the puck, and whistle doesn't blow, so Jordy Hoy leaves the net. Guess the penalty's on us, and Duluth has an open net goal. I'll never forget that play. Pretty crazy.
Far side, it's Lawler. Stepping through one check. Now leaving for Morris along the blue line. Rotating to Whitting on through back to Erica Lawler. So Lawler in the quarterback position for this unit. Little give-and-go play, but Minnesota wise to it. Came up with the deflection and cleared the zone.
Good puck movement by Wisconsin and good position on the defensive side for Minnesota.
That game you were referring to, that was 2004.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
You did actually. You wound up winning that game,
yeah.
I believe.
We did win that game, so it didn't matter. But it's just one of those freak things where you're like, what's going on?
A bit of ragged play by the Badgers along their own blue line. Gophers with another turnover and clear. Now, you had some adventures in those WCHA finals. I did the one the next year against Wisconsin, which of course had the miraculous finish by the Badgers, and then the two penalty calls, which depending on which camp you talk to, were the best or the worst calls of the season that led to your 5-on-3 overtime goal.
Yeah, that's funny because we got a heated discussion about that last week, actually, about those two calls. So, that was quite the game. Wisconsin coming back.
Here comes Bauer to the front of the backhand and floats it just wide. Bauer looking for her own shot there, but not able to find the mark. And Minnesota gets another clear with 25 seconds to go on the minor penalty, which went to Whitney Graff. Matthews pausing behind her own cage. Peeks out the near side, feeding Mickelson. Mickelson with an assist in this game. Had the goal last night, so shouldering the offensive responsibilities, even more so with Bobby Jo Slusser gone. And we got a whistle here, I believe, for a Gopher being trapped offside. So Minnesota's doing, for the most part, a pretty nice job on this kill. Only 9 seconds left for Wisconsin to work with, but the Badgers still up 2-0.
Yeah, it'd be nice if Minnesota could get one here before the end of the period to make it a game going into the third. The 2-goal lead is the hardest to hold in hockey, right?
That's what they say. And the rivalry between these two teams, we talked about that 05 WCHA final, the game earlier this year. Minnesota perhaps having their karma where they scored 2 goals in the final 2 minutes of play there to salvage a tie. So we have seen it. And it's nearly across women's college hockey this year. That has happened a lot this year. I don't know why that is, but you look at, Harvard and Dartmouth, when they played UNH, here's a bouncing puck on Hanlon who swats it aside. UNH down 2 goals in each of those 2 games, able to salvage a tie. I don't know what it is this year, but a lot of the top teams getting together. There's been those 2-goal deficits that have changed hands.
That's good. Make the fans come out and get excited.
We've been pretty fortunate. I mean, we've had a lot of top teams playing each other this year, and the quality of play has lived up to the billing of the games we've been able to do. So, if that's any indication of what's to come in the final 21-44, who knows, maybe a little more.
Hopefully, yeah.
Face-off down by the net of Christine Dufour has been very economical today, 19 for 19 on save opportunities. Her Badger team wins a defensive zone draw. On your side, it's Tia Hansen. Hansen on the rink-wide feed to Angie Keesley. Keesley in the circle, centering pass back door. There was Lawler, but step for step was Anya Miller to lift her stick. And Filipchek takes the puck away down low for the Gophers. Diagonally it up now to Gigi Marvin. Marvin trying to hand off the blanket tip, supported by Filipchek. They're on side, but the puck wanders harmlessly to the corner. It's taken by Emily Morris. Morris forklifts it on ahead, and Miller will trot back to play with 1:10 to go in the second period. Janelle Zog and Megan Duggan with the goals thus far. A lead pass into center. Badgers have players across the red line, and they're able to break things up as Whitting comes back to her own end, wrapping it near side to Bauer. Bauer, dangerous pass broken up by Graff. McKenzie in the circle, being bothered just enough that she couldn't tee up a clean shot, and Wisconsin gets the clearance. Dagny Willie back at her own end. A quick turnabout trying to hit Francis through center. That was taken away, and Duggan on the wrap. Schoba in the neutral zone for the Gophers, supported by Graff. Her headman pass in traffic intended for Francis, taken away with 30 seconds to go. Here's Erica McKenzie, far side in the circle. Wrist shot up high, and shoulder save for Dufour.
Not a way to shoot, though. Good job.
Sets up an offensive zone draw with 28.8 in the second. 20th shot of the game for Minnesota. Still 2-0 Wisconsin here. Badgers trying to extend their unbeaten streak in the rivalry to 7.
Erica Lawler lost her glove and so is in the other end. So they're going to kick her out of the draw right away.
And it winds up being costly. Lawler good on the draws, and Minnesota wins it in her absence with 23 seconds to go in the period. See if they can parlay that into a scoring opportunity. Tia Hansen, though, steals a pass, and Keesley tips it out of the zone. So as Anya Miller comes back to play it, the final possession of the second period here on the USCHO Game of the Week. Reminding you to hear from Megan Mickelson and Whitney Graff in the second intermission as Dagny Willie springs Whitney Graff over the line. Graff puts a charge into one with a puck on edge, goes out of play, and that's going to end the second period. So a power play goal by Megan Duggan, the only tally of the period. Minnesota 0 for 3 on power play opportunities, and it's still 2-0 Wisconsin after 2. Thoughts on the second period of play in contrast to what we saw in the first?
Yeah, we got to see some power plays, and obviously Wisconsin capitalized on their power play and made the game 2-0. And Minnesota got the opportunity to have 3 power plays in a row and had some good opportunities but couldn't capitalize. So overall, pretty decent period. We got to see some more offense with the power plays, but obviously, again, still a very defensive game by both teams. Very a neutral zone game type of game, and not a lot of offensive action, but hopefully this third period, 2 goalies hardest to hold, and obviously, Wisconsin's tough when they have the lead. They're so defensive-minded that they can hold the lead, so it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for Minnesota, but we'll see what they're worth this period.
So 2-0 Wisconsin after 2. As promised, caught up with the Wisconsin senior defenseman Megan Mickelson and Minnesota junior forward Whitney Graff earlier this week, so we'll turn it over to them for the next 15 minutes. 2-0 Wisconsin, USCHO Game of the Week. My guest is Wisconsin senior defenseman Megan Mickelson. And Megan, it's back to work for this team after a bit of a holiday layoff. I know you went into the break with a couple of ties, but for the most part, the record is still outstanding. Give me a sense of where you feel this team stands relative to where you guys want it to be come the end of the season.
Obviously you start at the beginning of the season wanting to get better each game, and that's something that our coach really emphasizes is building each game, each period, getting better and better along the way. So I think it's a process, and hopefully we'll continue to build from here. We had that tough series against St. Cloud right before the break, and then we have a good series this weekend against Minnesota. So hopefully we can continue to build throughout the season and keep getting better and better each and every game. I know there's a bunch of girls coming back from the U.S. Development camp over Christmas break, and I think that has a positive impact and influence on our team. So I think towards the end of the season, we'll be able to measure a bit better, where we are in terms of where we want it to be. But I think we're right on track right now, and the challenges that come at us they're welcomed and ready to take them on. So.
Now, you're part of a defensive corps that has done a lot of great things and has a lot of experience and really went through almost no turnover at all. And I'm curious. Last year was your first year back there, and now you're probably a year older and a year wiser at the position. How much of an advantage has it been that all of you, whether it's the goaltenders, the defensemen, you're all so familiar with each other right now?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a positive thing having all of our defense return from last year. We're all pretty comfortable with each other, and it's especially important for the defense to be comfortable with the goaltenders and vice versa. And I think us having that is, definitely a good thing. But at the same time, we can't get comfortable with what we have, and we each have to continue to get better each practice and each game, and push each other and continue to work together and continue to, develop as a group.
Mentioned last year was your first year at the position, and last year was really the year where the defense had some holes. When the coaching staff, approached you about making that switch, what was your initial reaction?
I was a bit shocked, to be honest. I would see it as probably being one of the better things that's happened to me throughout my career here at UW. My first 2 seasons, I didn't really produce or play the way I wanted to, and I figured, why not? Here's a change, here's an opportunity, a challenge. Why not take it on and just sort of see what happens with it? And I was really lucky, in the fact that everything turned out really well, and I'm having a lot of fun back there, and I'm definitely learning a lot. It's good to play the game from a different position and see everything from a different perspective. Obviously, forward is, playing up there. It's always the objective to score, and now playing defense, the objective is to keep the puck out of the net. So I'm learning, I think, and I have a lot of work to do and a lot of learning to do. Playing defense, but it's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I was presented with the opportunity.
Joined by Wisconsin senior defenseman Megan Mickelson. I'm going to shift gears on you a bit and go to personal background. You hail from the province of Alberta, and I know you have a couple of family ties to hockey and to professional hockey. So I'll ask you, kind of, once you got into the sport, I doubt it took you that long, but who were some of the biggest influences on the early stages of your career?
I would say my brother and my dad were probably the biggest influences, just because they're the ones. My dad played pro, and my brother was always out on the outdoor rinks growing up, and he was right there along beside me, and we were always, pushing each other and competing with each other. So my immediate family was probably had the biggest impact on, my playing hockey. But knowing that there was hockey in my family background, it's sort of motivating, and just having it be part of your family, there's, an emotional connection there. So, and, being a girl, too, playing hockey, there's having your mom there is always a good thing. And my mom was always really supportive of me playing hockey with the boys, which, it wasn't always easy, but she was always there for me. And my family was they were always so great growing up.
Now, it's a journey that eventually did lead you to Wisconsin. This is a question, again, that we ask everyone that comes on the show, which was, tell me a bit about your process. I'm sure you had options to stay home if you wanted to. You made the trip from Alberta to Madison. What was it about the school, what was it about the program that convinced you that that was the place you wanted to go?
I don't know. I just had a feeling when I came down here. I really liked the campus. I liked the team. I liked the coaches. Just the atmosphere was really great. The city of Madison itself is really amazing, actually, how everything's centralized around Badger athletics. And, just on my visit, I just felt like this was, somewhere where I could fit in, somewhere where I could really be comfortable. Obviously, having Mark Johnson here as one of the coaches was a very positive thing, and I knew with his hockey background that he could teach me a lot. So that was another big thing coming in. But I think it was just this is where I felt comfortable, and this is where I felt that I, should be.
Well, the decision turned out pretty well, certainly last spring, and I imagine, as you put it, that how Madison revolves around Badger athletics, the month of March this past year must have been a heck of an experience. So as you look back on it, what are some of the defining memories of winning the NCAA championship and being, part of that Badger hockey double championship?
Well, obviously, both teams winning was, something that's never happened in history before, so that was really special. But our team winning, our women's team winning first, there was that, the excitement and joy of us winning and being on the ice and holding up the trophy, being in the locker room afterwards with Barry Alvarez, and then, being congratulated and welcomed back to Madison by the city of Madison as soon as we got back was amazing. And standing up on the stage, having thousands of Madison residents just there cheering you on and supporting you and congratulating you was amazing. And then the guys winning, and then having a joint celebration in the Kohl Center, that was probably one of the most memorable experiences, having both teams up on that stage and seeing Adam and Nikki Burris hoist those trophies both over their head. It was such a great experience, and I'm glad that, I was able to be a part of it.
My guest is Minnesota junior forward Whitney Graff, Gophers winners of 10 straight, coming back off the holiday break. And Whitney, let's start right there. This is a team that, came out of the gates probably a little bit slower than you would have liked. We're at 4-3-1, but you've put together, a nice 10-win streak going into the holiday break. What have been some of the keys to kind of getting the ball rolling?
I think, the first couple games we were just starting to get used to the new team, like any team, and then I think we started to find our groove, got a couple different lines set up that played pretty well and consistently, so I think just being confident and playing well with each other has been kind of key for us lately.
You mentioned finding some chemistry on the lines, and your line in particular has been a fixture and a mainstay offensively for this team. Tell me a bit about the chemistry across you three. I know you're all pretty experienced players at this point. Why has it been working so well?
I think we enjoy each other so much. Andrea, Becky, and I just always have so much fun at practice every day, and we all are so happy with playing with each other. I think that on the ice it really helps us that we're all pretty similar players, and I think we can all read the ice pretty well. We know who each other are, and we like to get in the corners and dig the puck out, but also just read each other well and play well together.
Let's talk a bit about your progression, because you really are sort of a college success story. And if you kind of draw it up, someone comes into a program, kind of gets their feet wet, takes a little bit of a while to get adjusted, and then kind of takes off. And that's really been the story of your career. And next point you record is going to be a new career high. We're only about halfway through the season. What are some of the biggest differences in sort of Whitney Graff, the junior, versus the player that arrived in Minneapolis a couple years ago?
I guess the biggest difference is probably just my confidence level. I mean, now I'm excited to play every game and know that I can have a big impact on the ice and off the ice. And it's fun being a leader now, being an upperclassman. I kind of like that role. So I guess just a different role and different confidence level has helped a lot.
You mentioned becoming a leader, becoming an upperclassman. This is a team that has had to battle a key injury as well. You haven't had Erica McKenzie the last couple of weeks, even as the team was playing that well. Certainly you never hope for an injury. You never hope to lose a player of that caliber. But has there been a silver lining? Has it helped other players kind of come along, given that you've been able to win without her in the lineup?
Obviously it hurts a lot with missing Erica, such a talented player, but it seemed like we all kind of rallied around it. We knew it even maybe helped us step up a bit, work a bit harder during the games, because we knew that we were missing such a key player. Some of the people got chances. Maybe the fourth liners got to step up on the third line, and they worked hard, and everyone kind of rallied around it and came together to win.
You're also going to be missing key personnel this weekend for an entirely different reason, that being Canada's under-22 team calling away a couple of your key cows, Melanie Gagnon, and at the forward position again, Bobby Ross. What are going to be some of the toughest challenges about taking those two out of your lineup?
It's hard to picture now. I mean, Melanie's such a solid defenseman for us. We're really going to have to work hard in the defensive zone, especially against Wisconsin, because they're such a powerhouse in the offensive zone. And with missing Bobby, obviously a very talented forward, we're going to have to work hard in the offensive zone and try to put the pucks in the net.
Talking with Minnesota junior pro Whitney Graff, going to shift gears on you a bit and go to personal background. Like many of your teammates, you stayed home to play college hockey, and I'm sure growing up hockey was never too far away, but this is a question we ask everyone that comes on the program. Tell us about the first experience. How did you first get mixed up in hockey way back when?
One of my best friends, Jill Arntz, her name at the time, was played hockey because her brother did, and she just was like, hey, you should come out, and I did, and kind of fell in love with it.
And kind of growing up, who are some of the people you identify as sort of biggest influences in the formative stages of your career?
I always had great coaches, especially my high school coaches were always so supportive of me, and they taught me a lot about things on and off the ice, and I always looked up to many of my coaches.
The journey, of course, finally did lead you to play for the Gophers, and kind of curious, to what extent was it actually a process for you? Did you always know you were going to play in the maroon and gold, or was there actually sort of a decision that you had to make regarding, what was it about the school, about the program that convinced you that was the right place to be?
Yeah, I definitely didn't know I was going to come to the Gophers, but it came down to Ohio State and the U, and I knew I always wanted to play Division I, and I figure that it's close to home, and it's obviously such a program and close by. So yeah, obviously I'm happy with my decision.
We still have a year left beyond this one, but if I make you think about the longer-term future for a second, what are some of the things we might see Whitney Graff mixed up in, whether it's inside a hockey rink or totally away from the sport?
I guess right now I would want to coach. I think it'd be fun to coach maybe a high school hockey team, but also I'm very interested in nutrition, and I'm hoping to help prevent obesity in teens somehow. Not exactly sure how, though.
Well, you're not quite done yet, and you referenced Wisconsin. Let's talk a bit about the Badgers. I know they've had the upper hand in the rivalry the last couple of meetings. However, the very last time you saw them, you guys really rescued a point, kind of stole a tie in the waning moments in their building. How big of a confidence boost was rallying to salvage the back end of that series?
Oh, that game was so fun. I think we all would have been pretty disappointed if we didn't come out with the tie, just because we thought we played so well, and we really deserved at least a tie. So to score with I think 1 second left was so exciting. And it was a huge confidence and momentum booster for us, because we know we can play against them. The last 5 games, I think we haven't won one, but our confidence level is just so high right now, and we're so excited for this weekend.
Thoughts of Megan Mickelson and Whitney Graff. Brian Schultz, Natalie Darwitz on hand at Ritter Arena, as Wisconsin still has a 2-0 lead here as we get set to start the third period. And again, I guess Natalie, the storyline is the same for Minnesota right now, finding a way to crack the nut that is the Badger defense. They had a couple power plays, had a couple chances, couldn't get it past Christine Dufour. So now in the final 20 minutes, any adjustments you foresee them making?
Got to get aggressive now. Game's on the line. You either go for it or you lay back and keep holding Wisconsin. So take a few chances here in Minnesota and see what you can do. Hopefully you can pop one in here fairly early in the period and get a game.
Off the draw, Minnesota right to the attack in the offensive zone as Blankenship takes over. Goal line extended near side. Up now to Shoba. Shoba with the wrist shot through traffic. Kick save Dufour. Rebound is golfed to the far point. Handled there by Anya Miller.
Nice job by Shoba to get it through traffic and on the net, on the Dufour. And she's actually my roommate, so I have to give her a little shout out to Maggie Shoba.
Anya Miller back in her own zone. Pressure being applied by Megan Duggan. And with help from Bauer, they create the turnover. Bauer in front. One-timer Keesley kicked out by Hanlon. Nearly a carbon copy of the first Badger goal.
Big toe save by Kim. Very big save.
Shots on goal in that second period wound up being 14-7 in favor of the Gophers, but the only goal came off the stick of Megan Duggan on the power play from Mickelson and Bauer at 2:10. So Bauer has a couple of assists today. Zog and Duggan have the goals. Schoba near corner. Lost to Lawler. Lawler squirts out in front. Waits, fires, and puts it just wide. Tremendous hesitation by Lawler, but just missed the target.
You saw a glimpse of how good Lawler is. Walked out in front of the net, saw traffic, pulled it back, was patient, and then just missed it right over the right-hand corner. Great move by Lawler.
Buzzes back in front here, but it's chopped away and cleared down. Matthews, D to Emily Morris. Morris. Bank pass broken up by Brittany Francis for the moment. Minute and a half gone in the third. Still 2-0 Wisconsin here in the USCHO game of the week. Minor next week. We'll be back east for a big ECAC Hockey League clash as Dartmouth takes on Harvard.
Ooh, big East Coast battle there, huh?
Dartmouth winning round 1 right before the holiday break. They'll match up at the Bright Center. And one of your old national team pals, AJ Malesko, will make her annual appearance. AJ, of course, was covering you closely at the 2006 Winter Games for NBC.
I'm sure AJ will out-talk me, that's for sure. She's a talker. Great person, though, and has a family and is doing really well. And
has 2 kids now.
Yeah,
two
she's
kids.
popping them out.
Both girls.
And Cameron Granado just had a baby boy, so congrats to her, too. I don't think she's listening, but congrats to Cammie.
Badgers with possession. Montreal up top. Kristen Whitting fires it back to the corner. Manu steps in front of Klutzian. Far side, Jamie Horton picks up. Horton saucers on ahead, hits the skates of Wacker from behind, but a nice handoff to Andrea Nichols. Nichols in turn has it taken off her blade. That stalls Minnesota for the moment, and Wacker just fires it down on goal from long range. 2.5 gone in the third. Still 2-0 Badgers. Near side it comes to Klutzian. Klutzian steps over the red line and lobs it on deep. Hanlon wanders away from her crease to play it to Dagny Willie. Willie near side to Jamie Horton. This arena, which is filled to near capacity, still waits for an opportunity to really get behind the home team as Wisconsin continues to stymie the Gopher attack. 2-0 Badgers here. And looking for more. Zog down low in front. Duggan on the one-timer, and she rifles it just wide.
His first line's good. They move the puck well and find the open man in front of the net. Duggan had another opportunity to get a second goal of the game, but just missed wide.
Bauer down behind the net, curls out on the far side, monitored by Dagny Willie. Cycles now to Zog. Zog had it go off the skates of Zebro. Minnesota takes the clear and takes the icing. And you referenced that top line. Now, Bauer and Zog have played together forever, well over a season. Earlier in the season, it was Sanders who was skating with the two of them. And now we see Duggan taking the turn up top on this first line, and they look like the three of them have some pretty good chemistry going.
Yeah, I think Duggan and Lawley used to play together, but with the loss of one of the Canadian forwards, they had to jumble up lines a little bit. So moved Duggan up, and she's doing a great job up there.
Far side, bouncing puck. Tia Hansen scrapping for it. Taken, though, by Filipchek. Minnesota had leaked 2 players into the neutral zone, but the pass split the difference and went down for an icing call.
Yeah, Minnesota's got some players in the neutral zone with one lone Wisconsin defenseman. So if that could have went to a Minnesota player, it would have been a nice 2-on-1 right there.
Face off back by Hanlon's left. 3.5 gone in the third. Badgers win this one, but the first touch goes to Maggie Schoba. And the puck forced just beyond the blue stripe, taken quickly back by Keesley. Maybe a 2-on-1 if they hurry. Keesley trying to protect in center, but the pass broken up in front by Schoba. Blankenship's clearance denied by Keesley. Keesley tucks it off the near side boards, but Schoba the only player there for either team, and she lifts it on ahead. Lawler attacking right wing side, runs right to Anya Miller and is stood up along the wall.
Anya Miller's a solid gal. I don't want to run into her on the ice.
Near side it comes Blankenship. Blankenship, lead pass intercepted by Lawler at center ice. Lawler's pass and turn stolen by Blankenship. Maybe a chance for Blankenship to turn on the Jets on left wing. Trying to attack. Centers it in front. Went up the side of the net. The follow-up attempt was forced in front, but never got 2-4. And back the other way comes Sanders with speed. Gets through the first level. Sanders right wing side. Wrists it just wide.
Sanders turned on the Jets there and beat a couple of Minnesota defensemen and just missed the net.
All of a sudden, though, things opening up a bit. I imagine that would be beneficial if you're a Minnesota fan. As Whitney Graff down low trying to create some space, but is quickly double teamed. Graff, though, escapes still with possession. Good work by her. The backhand centering feed comes to the front as Francis was crashing. couldn't get the stick to it in time. Francis, though, possesses out top Willie. Her wrister is blocked, and the puck skips down the ice. Halen's going to have to race away from the crease to play it away from Sanders, who had a touch to it but couldn't control it cleanly. As Giles picks up in the near corner and is promptly rubbed out by Dagny Willie, who tucks it around and out.
A little more up and down hockey you have right now makes it exciting, and the crowd's into it a little bit more, and I'm into it a little bit more too. So good hockey right now, up and down.
Well, so often, we talk about solving Wisconsin's defense in the offensive zone, but so often it's what you do in the other zones to set things up. And it seems like Wisconsin does such an outstanding job in their offensive zone and in the neutral zone of preventing teams from moving cleanly.
Exactly. Every time Minnesota's coming up, they have 4 guys in the neutral zone just waiting, and one guy's just doing all the forechecking, and makes the job a lot easier for the defensive team for sure. Flip check gets kicked out of the face-off circle. Big draw right here for Gigi. She wins it.
Duggan, though, got a touch, couldn't get it on net. Wisconsin had a decisive advantage on draws through 2 periods, 25-11. You had Lawler at 75%, 12-4. As Blankenship on right wing trying to center, but that's broken up. And you had Bauer also at 75%, 9-3. So that always helps.
Yeah, that's impressive. It's really a big difference that draws make. You need to get the possession right away. If you don't get the possession on the draws, you're playing a lot of defense. So that's an improvement Minnesota needs to make this period too.
Maggie Shoba in her own zone, backhands ahead. Drops right at the feet of Mickelson. He rifles it down, and that's going to be an icing. She's not too happy with herself as she heads off. And will bring the draw back down by Dufour with 14:06 to play in the third. And Janelle Zog and Megan Duggan have staked the Badgers to a 2-0 lead.
2 U.S. girls, that's good. with the goals today. Had a good camp last week out in Lake Placid.
Lawler down low in the corner of her zone. Gets tangled up with Andrea Nichols. Nichols in among the trees. A couple taller players around her, but she's able to whisk it free. But Kristen Whitting takes over behind the Badger net. Scales it high off the glass. Funny hop right to Nichols, who rifles it over the crossbar.
That was the bounce they needed and just missed the net.
Maunu off the wall trying to center it. Went behind the intended receiver and is taken back by Tia Hansen. Lead pass intended for Keesley. Nichols got to stick it to Keesley from behind, and that broke that play up as Tiffany Johnson sends back the other way on left wing.
Oof.
And there's a penalty on the Badgers as Whitting takes down Johnson hard along the wall. Waller scrambling to touch up. Makes contact. There's the call, and here's another opportunity for Minnesota's power play, which seemingly with each possession has gotten a little bit closer to what they want to do, but still held off the board. 2-0 Badgers.
Big opportunity. Whitting just got caught a little bit and threw a nice little shoulder. And it was a good clean hit, but obviously women's hockey is a penalty. So she's going to go to box, and we can see if Minnesota can capitalize right now. It'd be very big if they could.
And here's a critical face-off to start a power play, and Minnesota does win this one, so they're set up. Miller with Filipchek on the far side. Filipchek outside the rim, skipping a pass near side. Brittany Francis. Now the umbrella with Miller up top. Gathers, feints, near side Francis, trying to skip the pass backdoor. Maybe telegraphed a little bit more, stuck a stick out and tipped it away.
Trying to go cross-ice pass on the power play, and number 8 did a great job of getting her stick in the passing lane.
Miller up left wing to Blankenship. Blankenship splitting 2 as she hit the blue line. Francis backs her up in the circle. Had the puck roll on her between the circles, trying to get a turning shot away that never reached the target. And Megan Mickelson wraps it around far side. Minnesota's changing, so an easy clear as Bauer scampers onto it at center. Sarah Bauer 1-on-3 short-handed, trying to apply a move against Miller, but lost the puck. And with 1:05 to go on the minor to Whitting, it's Gigi Marvin on the left wing side, back into offensive real estate for the Gophers. Waiting for her teammates to join her. Marvin steps into the ring, throws down low to Becky Wacker. Wacker uses the outlet and Willie up top. Willie feeling pressure from Lawler, gets it across to McKenzie, returns it near side to Wacker, puts a charge in one that's blocked. Turning shot by Blankenship, also blocked, this time by Mickelson. Near corner, Marvin gets to it. Now behind the net, Blankenship. They crisscross. Blankenship still with the handle. Near side to Erica McKenzie. Moving up the wall. Slings it to Willie. Over for a sharp angle shot by Marvin that goes high and wide with 25 seconds to go on the power play. Minnesota's had the possession, but they have not been able to get one through to Dufour. Marvin, far ring. Wrister, might have been a pass backdoor to McKenzie, but too hot to handle. McKenzie leaves it down low once again, this time for Wacker. Wacker far side to Marvin. 12 seconds to go on the penalty. Lawler using her speed. Gets underneath Marvin and gets the clear. Willie on the turnabout. Go ahead.
Just playing a passive box, and Minnesota's just passing around the perimeter and can't get inside for any quality shots right now.
Back to 5 aside are the Badgers with 11:15 to go in the third. Still 2-0 Wisconsin. Andrea Nichols behind the net. Trying to squirt one off the side of the cage in front, but taken back by Zog. And Zog up now through center trying to hit Duggan. That in turn was foiled by Gigi Marvin. Nichols comes over to help out. Stalemate along the blue line. Nichols barrels forward into the Badgers zone, but it's taken back by the road team. And now it's Bauer over the red line, losing her edge, but staying with it. And they're onside as Bauer saucers it and ladles it down low to Zog, trying to return it to the cutting Bauer, but behind her assistant captain, up to the point to Morris.
These guys like the give and go pass. It's working out for them.
Bauer now trying to escape to the near side, actually crashed into the side of the net. And I guess the call is made for a hand pass, although the net seemed like it was still on its mooring. Not sure what that call was.
Just saw Bauer going head first in the back of the net.
So face off to Hanlon's right with 10.5 to go in the third period. Brian Schultz, Natalie Darwitz on hand at Ritter Arena. And Wisconsin with a 2-0 lead, trying to take the season series in the regular campaign 3-0-1. Minnesota wins the draw. From a tournament positioning standpoint, this game is somewhat significant. Minnesota, one of those teams jockeying perhaps for a home ice position. And a win over Wisconsin would do wonders for their comparisons in RPI later on in the campaign, especially with Minnesota Duluth ailing right now, both physically and in the one-loss department. Minnesota swept the series from their northern rivals earlier this season.
That's good. That's a good sign.
But Duluth is struggling right now. They had a couple of injuries over the winter break as well, so it's a talented squad, but it's a hurting squad as Blankenship's long-distance shot is fought off by Dufour, and she'll cover to be safe.
Yeah, you don't like to see players get injured, especially in the middle of the season. So hopefully everyone can get healthy again and make a good playoff run. I wouldn't mind, though, if Duluth wasn't in the mix.
Now they're on the outside looking in. The record just over 500. Went through a tough stretch right before the holidays where they were swept by Minnesota. They were able to get a win over Wisconsin. It's actually Wisconsin's only loss, but then were promptly swept by Harvard and also had a 1-point weekend against Minnesota State in there as well.
Oof.
So a tough run for them. Also took a loss to Ohio State, so they've certainly got their work cut out for them. They're in a position perhaps similar to Harvard in 2005. The Crimson that year able to go 19-0-2 en route to the finals, where they ran into your squad and came up a goal short. But that's not the route you want to bank on taking necessarily.
That's a tough route to take. And obviously Harvard did a phenomenal job 2 seasons ago with that. But Carolyn Ouellette needs to pick those guys up over there, huh?
Assistant coach now for UMD. They can't suit her up anymore with 9:15 to go in the third.
They might sneak her out there, though.
Wisconsin just trying to protect the 2-0 lead here as Giles on left wing puts it deep to the Gopher end. Maggie Shoba gets the first touch, hacks it around to Erica McKenzie. McKenzie finesses it off the wall, but not out. Hanlon guides it aside to Shoba once again. Shoba leaving this time for Willie. Ooh, Whitney Graff threw a hard shoulder into Rachel Bible.
Nice hit, Whitney Graff. That was a good little shoulder.
And now Brittany Francis forces the turnover down low. Has a trailer in Jamie Horton, but again, the rotation for the Badger defense able to get over and block the shot. This time it was Bible. Anya Miller far side. And Kyla Sanders get together. The puck squirts free to center ice, and Emily Kranz hacks it all the way down. It looks like she was just short of the red line, so icing the call.
Obviously, I was impressed when I played against Wisconsin, but watching from a different perspective, these guys are good. Minnesota creates a turnover. Hits the second flow, and you still have 4 Wisconsin players in the front of the net, and they still can't get a shot through. These guys are good in front of the net. I give them a lot of credit.
I think structurally they're also a little different team than the one that you went against. I think those Wisconsin teams are a little bigger, maybe a little more. We talk about them being a good defense, but those teams perhaps more reliant on stars on defense than this team, which has, as we've talked about, a lot of quick players, a lot of players that are more finesse type players. So they have evolved over the years.
Yeah, I'm just really impressed, and I think this is what Wisconsin team is going to be the team to beat coming into March, and if they play the way they do and how sound they are on the defensive side of the puck, they're going to be tough to score on, like Minnesota's having a tough time tonight.
Kelly Blankenship in the offensive zone, throwing it to the front. Marvin had her back to the goal, wheels into the circle, slips around one check, comes out the short side, and Dufour again, not happy with stuff going on in front of the net. Pushes away a player in front, and then turns to the referee with a couple of words. So she is definitely
feisty one.
Yeah,
there,
she has definitely not liked some of the shenanigans in front of her cage today.
Which is hard because there's 4 Wisconsin girls right in front of her, so I don't know what's not to like. But goals are different fiddle, huh? So got their own agenda.
So Dufour, it's working for her. She's had none have gone past her. She's 23 for 23. With Minnesota, though, continuing to pressure as a wrister from Anya Miller sails just wide. Zog on the near side, beaten to it by Filipchek, who tucks it to the far corner, and Marvin massages it behind the net. Sent quickly back out, but not out of the zone as Miller holds. Will put it into the skates of Duggan, and now transition time for Sarah Bauer on the right wing side. Has Duggan and Zog crashing, hits the trailer in Duggan. Wrist shot, awkward save as Hanlon was going side to side, but reached back with the glove to make the catch.
Nice 3-on-2 setup. Puck carrier Bauer goes wide. The other wing cuts to the net, which forces the Minnesota defenseman to go with her, and then leaves Dugan right open and in the slot, and she gets a pretty decent shot off. I think she didn't get everything on it, but still a good shot on net.
Minnesota's done a better job in the faceoff circle in this third period. They win another one here. The clearance is foiled by Rachel Bible far side. 7.5 in the third. The clock becoming the enemy of Minnesota as they're down 2-0 here. Janelle Zog and Megan Duggan have the game's only goals. And a nice skip pass to Emily Morris. Wrist shot up high. Shoulder save is made. Puck is loose on the doorstep. Hanlon made a follow-up stop. Lawler still has it in the far ring as she wheels away from Dagny Willie. Lawler. Well, they canceled out against the back glass by Willie, who took her down off her skates, and Francis gets through center ice. Brittany Francis trying to step over the line, diving headlong after a loose puck. Couldn't quite come up with it. Whitney Graff supports her along the blue line, but now Erica Lawler has time to turn and fire it out of the zone. Maggie Shoba back down to McKenzie. McKenzie wheeling to the center. But her lead pass tips off the legs of Kranz and is taken back by Jasmine Giles. Giles stepping through a check, walks down low, curls behind the net, has room on the wraparound, kicked out by Hanlon, follow up by Emily Morris, did not go through. A bouncing puck spurts to the near side wall and is controlled by Minnesota captain Andrea Nichols.
Minnesota's got to step it up. They got 6.5 left, and Wisconsin's controlling the play and getting their scoring opportunities.
Far side, Kyla Sanders. Sanders feathering one between the circles, gets back on her own pass, now tries to put one toward the net. That did not go through as the chopping stick of Willie got in the way. Sanders continuing her circuit around the offensive zone. Now finally will peel off and head for a change as Nichols takes over and steps forward from her own end. Long saucer pass, trying to use the air to get through the Wisconsin defense. It did reach the stick of Wacker, but amidst heavy traffic and was quickly taken away as Megan Duggan trying to spring Zog through center, rolled on through to Sarah Bauer. Here's Bauer on the backhand, 1-on-2, ridden off the play by Anya Miller. And now it's Wacker to Marvin. Marvin trying to accelerate to attack speed, but taken off her blades and off the puck. Minnesota does get to offensive real estate for a moment. Quickly turn around and sent back out.
Gigi Marvin almost broke through there on a breakaway. Good speed by Gigi.
Michelle Maudu trying to clear on the near side. Does a good job of that. Now carries forward herself. 2-on-3. Maudu, long distance offering. Disrupted and sailed wide. 5:19 to go in the third. Still 2-0 Wisconsin. Up top, the pass from Graff just off the mark. The foot race is on, and Lawler's not going to lose many foot races. Here she comes walking in. Lawler to the forehand with a poke check from Kim Hanlon. Keeps this a 2-0 game. Now Blankenship on the turnabout, trying to hit Graff through center. Saw the full speed of Erica Lawler on display there.
You definitely saw the showcase of her speed right there. Quick feet. She's fun to watch.
Continuing to wreak havoc in the neutral zone here at the end of her shift. Hands off to Giles, and Giles on left wing. Shova takes the angle. Keep her at bay. Giles now uses the trailer in Kranz, who got a huge drive away, but was way under that one and popped it high out of play.
Her buddy Giles is giving her a hard time. Put up her arm saying it's good. Nothing like good teammate razzing right there.
faceoff will come outside the zone with 4.5 to play in the third period. And Wisconsin still with a 2-0 lead. Maggie Shoba back down low in her own zone. Quickly D to Anya Miller. Miller monitored by Sanders. Token forecheck applied as the Badgers send 4 back to the neutral zone. Winning fans on her pass attempt. Jamie Horton trying to get onto it down low. Cran's got a touch. Not cleared as of yet. Horton digs it free of the pile, but right to Emily Morris behind the cage, and the daughter of the former Clarkson head coach sends it around far side. Morris another touch, this time uses the center of the ice to get the clear. Fired back in quickly by Shoba as Minnesota changes up its D. Morris skates back to play it. Horton is monitoring the bouncing puck to the blue line. Hacking at it was Willie. She could not keep. Now it's Sanders losing to Nichols at center, who in turn is dispossessed by Zog. Quickly to Bauer between the circles, where his shot did not get all of it. And a loose puck behind the cage will be contested for by Megan Duggan and Dagny Willie. Duggan wins that contest, trying to leave for Bauer, who's wrestled off her skates, and there's a penalty to Dagny Willie, who was out there for some time, was looking a little bit tired as Bauer went skating by, took her down, and she'll head off for 2.
Good matchup. I like to see Dugan and Willie go head-to-head. Two tough girls right there going head-to-head.
Although if you're Megan Duggan, keep the gloves on. Dagny Willie's not the one you ever want to drop with.
Exactly.
Certainly not across the country. 5-0 in her competitive career.
Jeez.
Off the draw. Duggan kicks it out to Matthews. On the swing to Mickelson. Rotates it to Janelle Zog. 3.5 to go in the third. Wisconsin up 2-0. Looking for a potential knockout punch here on their power play, which has served them so well all season long. Far side, it's Bauer. Pass, though, intercepted by Graft, who wraps it free nicely to Miller. Miller fires it off the wall. Good hold by Matthews on the near side of Duggan. Now they have 2-on-1 down low. There's Zog for the quick release and handling the pad stop. Bauer coming over against Zebro, reaching for it against Mickelson. Still in the zone. Finally, Zebro wins it free and gets it just beyond the blue stripe as Mickelson comes back to play. Uses the indirect pass to Bauer. And it's Bauer on right wing orchestrating once again. Has a trailer in Duggan. Hands off to the freshman. Right back to the senior in Bauer. Bauer up top to Mickelson. Mickelson fan on the shot attempt. But it drifted free to Matthews, and Matthews keeps it pinned deep with 1:05 to go on the Willie Minor and only 2.5 to go in the third period. Wisconsin still up by a count of 2-0. Janelle Zog down low, sharp angle shot. She's got a great shot with that long reach of hers.
She had a quick release with her. That's quick release and long reach. That's not good for a goaltender.
Hanlon fought that one off to keep it 2-0. Only 40 seconds to go on the power play as Minnesota gets the clear. Waller just over the boards will come back to play it with an assist from Dufour. And here comes Erica Lawler, monitored by Andrea Nichols. Lawler now deferring to Emily Morris. Morris cruising over the center ice insignia, gains the Minnesota line, turns around, and then Nichols promptly steals it from her, but can't clear by Mickelson. Mickelson with a drive. Pad saved by Hanlon, and she'll cover up to be safe with a 1:50 to go in the third and 18 to go on the power play.
These Wisconsin D keep the puck, do a great job keeping the puck in. Pucks along the wall, gets fired up at Minnesota, and those guys just throw their bodies around and keep anything they do to keep it in the zone, and it pays off. It keeps the momentum, keeps them on the power play, and they keep getting scoring opportunities. So great job by that Wisconsin D to keep it in.
And Minnesota will expend a timeout here. So there's 18 seconds of shorthanded time for Minnesota to work with, and then presumably they will try to get Hanlon to the bench for a 6-on-5 and see if they can't recreate the magic that got them a tie earlier this year at the Kohl Center, scoring 2 goals in the final 2 minutes, including a Gigi Marvin tally with 2 seconds on the clock in that one.
Yeah, obviously Wisconsin did it to Minnesota in the 2005 final, WCHA finals, and Minnesota did it earlier this year, so anything can happen right now, and Minnesota's just got to keep positive, and Wisconsin's just got to keep doing what they're doing right now. It's keeping Minnesota bottled up and keep it in their zone. So we'll see what happens in the next 2 minutes here.
These two teams continuing to run 1-2 in the WCHA this year. Does not look like anything's going to change. Wisconsin has but 1 defeat, 3 ties. Minnesota has the 3 losses and the 1 tie. You look around the country, in the first half of the season, the teams that have kind of identified themselves as a top tier, Wisconsin out west, Mercyhurst in the middle. They have the number 1 ranking, and then you've got UNH back out east. Those 3 teams kind of stepped forward with probably the best all-around results through the first half. And then there's a host of teams that are certainly good enough to contend and win a championship, Minnesota being one of those. Harvard, Dartmouth, St. Lawrence also in that conversation. Boston College, a young up-and-coming team. Are they quite ready to take down some of those more veteran clubs? We'll see, but they're certainly fun to watch and pretty explosive. And then you got some dark horse teams who you never know. Any given weekend, Clarkson, a very good defensive club, and Colgate's got some quality wins. So we'll see what plays out this year.
There we go, right here.
Off the draw, Whitney Graff finds space on left wing, crooks the wrist shot, and it went off the stick of Morris, and Dufour had to make an adjustment to make the save. So now Minnesota will have an offensive zone draw to kill off this penalty. Good design play off that recent faceoff.
Really good design. Won the draw and got it up to Whitney Graff, who was going along the wing. Got a good shot off.
Off the draw, Alicia Matthews tucking it around the near side to Zog. Willie about set to return. Miller banks it off the walls. Here comes Willie out of the box, but it's taken though by Bauer over the line. That'll keep Kim Hanlon between the pipes a little while longer as Bauer is double teamed, and Willie finally sweeps it away. Willie behind her own net, comes out the left wing side. Lead pass to Filipchek. Hanlon peeking away from the crease. The dump down from Filipchek, and there goes Hanlon for the 6th skater as Brittany Francis comes into the play. 1:09 to go in the third. Wisconsin 2, Minnesota nothing, and Bauer swats it out of the zone as Miller comes back to play in her own end. Lead pass through center to Filipchek, intercepted by Duggan, broken up by Graff. The possession belongs to Megan Mickelson in the Badger end. Saucering near side to Keesley, went off her stick right to Anya Miller. 48 seconds to go. The Gophers need attack zone time, and the steal instead comes to Duggan, who fires away, and she scores! Megan Duggan, who picked up the 2nd goal of the game, will put this one on ice with 42 seconds to go in the third. Wisconsin up by a count of 3-0, and they look like they will extend their unbeaten streak in this border rivalry to 7.
Yeah, Wisconsin's clearly the team to beat right now, and they just proved that this weekend. And Duggan's proven the type of player she is. Two-goal game tonight, so they have a lot of horses on their team, and she's clearly one of them right now, and establishing herself in the WCHA and the U.S. right now.
So Megan Duggan picks up her 15th of the season and 2nd of the game. So that line producing all 3 goals today. Duggan with a pair and Zog with her 17th as McKenzie on left wing in the final half minute of play. Lets loose for the drive. The stick to side by Dufour. And through center comes Jasmine Giles one more time. A 2-on-1 develops with 15 seconds to go. Giles leading the charge. Back door. The redirect from Sanders sails just wide. 10 seconds to play in the period as Wacker eludes a check on the near side wall. Puts it to neutral ice. McKenzie takes a look around as she hits the offensive line. Throws it to the front. Diving after it was Wacker. And that's going to do it for this one. As Wisconsin this weekend coming off out of the break. Looks very crisp and very clean. Playing Badger hockey from pretty much start to finish. And they come up with an impressive sweep, 4-1 and 3-0 in front of this record crowd here at Ritter Arena. The defending national champions looking to be still in good shape as they continue on their road. They improved to 18-1-3 overall, 14-1-3 in the conference. Minnesota drops to 14-5-1 on the season and 11-4-1 in WCHA play.
Yeah, Wisconsin's got obviously a great team. They show up this weekend, and they're going to be the team to beat in the WCHA right now. And Minnesota took it on the chin this week, but they learn and they realize now how hard they're going to have to work to catch this team. So kind of a wake-up call from Minnesota and kind of a gut check to see what's going to go on the last half of the season right now.
So both teams shaking hands at center ice. And let's recap the scoring. And Natalie, if you would start putting together your 3 stars of the game in the back of your head, put you on the spot for that one. But in this one, Wisconsin got out of the gates quickly. Just 27 seconds in, the first shift of the game was Janelle Zog picking up the 17th of her season, leading this team in goals. A bang-bang play from that top line, which was the story this afternoon. Bauer starting to play on the near side circle. Down low to Megan Duggan. Quick touched it in front. Zog one time to the 5-hole, and Wisconsin was off and running by a count of 1-0. And the Badgers on the season as you'd expect. Very effective when they score first. Now 17-0-2, and they would make it stand up with another goal in the second period as Megan Duggan got her afternoon started on the power play. A little deflection off a Megan Mickelson blast as Duggan kind of squirted free amidst the penalty kill box on Wisconsin's first opportunity of the day, and that made it 2-0. And from there, Minnesota really kind of played its best hockey. They had a series of power play opportunities. They got some good chances on Christine Dufour, actually outshot the Badgers 14-7 in that second period, but really could not parlay it into any consistent offense. They got one more power play shot in the third, couldn't make that tell, and then in the waning moments, it was Megan Duggan again picking up her second of the game and 15th of the season to put this one on ice. 3-0 Wisconsin win it. Final shots on goal, Wisconsin with 26, Minnesota with 25. So Christine Dufour picks up the shutout with 25 saves. And Natalie Darwitz, your 3 stars of the game, 3, 2, and 1, if you please.
My number 3 star, I'm going to have to go with Wisconsin goaltender Dufour. Obviously, had the goose egg today, didn't let up any goals, and was solid in net. My second star would be Sarah Bauer. Just quarterbacks, basically Wisconsin, the whole team, and she's their go-to girl, and she had a good solid game. But my number 1 was obviously with 2 goals and 1 assist, Megan Dugan. 2 big goals tonight. The second one, obviously, a really big goal, and set up the first goal, and just was kind of all around the puck tonight and made her presence felt. So she's my number 1 star. Minnesota had no stars for me tonight. They worked hard, but no one really stood out and had a great game. A couple of their top guns need to step it up, and for this team if they're gonna make a run for the playoffs right now. So obviously it's a tough one to take on the chin tonight, but I think it's a good wake-up call for them, and there's a long season left, so hopefully those guys can step it up, and a couple of the bigger guns can pick it up for them and carry this team.
And it certainly is a long way to go. You think about last year's Minnesota team. That was a team that actually wound up losing 11 games, and they wound up playing 41 when all was said and done. So this is only about game 20 of the season, so we're only about halfway through, and a lot can change between now and then. But for now, the Badgers remain kind of the class of the West, and perhaps as long as they're the defending champs, they may not hold the number 1 ranking, but certainly I think come March they probably are the team to beat until someone actually takes it from them. But there's a lot of teams out there who are showing signs they might be capable of doing just that. But that's to be sorted another time. You threw in a comment that I thought was very interesting. You said this was your first game of the year. Yep. So first game of the year, we put you in a different perspective than what you're used to. So what was how would you characterize your afternoon up here? What are your sort of defining impressions?
Yeah, it's fun. Obviously, it's a different perspective talking about something, and people know me best now. I'm not I'm not a chatterbox, but it was fun being up here, getting a different perspective, and watching some of my old teammates, and meeting girls who were playing tonight, meeting them last week in Lake Placid, and obviously I'm a Minnesota alum, and a lot of me wanted them to win today, and to be honest, but I have to give credit where credit's due, and Wisconsin's just a great team, and they're going to be tough to beat, and they have a lot of skilled young hockey players that I enjoyed watching today, and Minnesota. But I like to thank you for coming out here and your time. I learned a lot about you, and you do this all out of your own time and out of your own pocketbook. So women's hockey really appreciates you doing this, and I do too, because you're making the game grow by your contributions. So I appreciate it, Brian.
Well, I appreciate you coming out, and you certainly help the listenership, help the viewership. I mean, I think what I told the Minnesota broadcaster before the game when he was interviewing me was, the game of the week, the analyst position is really one of the highlights of it. I mean, the sport itself is great. The product is fun. Certainly interviewing the coaches and players is a lot of fun as well. But it really is the people that I get to stand next to on a daily basis that I always joke, I've got the best team. The best team in the world is in my Rolodex. And I'm pretty lucky in that regard. So being able to have a chance to work with you now after I had a chance to interview you a couple times, and certainly have had a chance to watch you play over the last 6 years was certainly a real privilege for me. So if you're still in the area, hopefully it will not be the last time that I can rope you into this. I thought you did a fantastic job for a first time out.
If you don't get too many emails saying this Darwitz kid cannot talk, I would love to come out here again. It was fun. It was a good time.
So Wisconsin takes it by a count of 3-0. That's going to just about do it for us this afternoon. A couple people we have to thank before going off the air. I want to thank Adam Augustine and Michelle Train, who are the sports information contacts for Wisconsin and Minnesota, respectively. I want to also thank our 4 guests today, Mark Johnson, Laura Halderson, Megan Mickelson, and Whitney Graft. And want to thank All In Broadcasting for their outstanding job of production start to finish, as always. And a very special thank you once again to former Gopher All-American and U.S. Olympian Natalie Darwitz for making her broadcast debut and doing what she those in all roles, which is excel, and you'll see Natalie and Team USA at the World Championships in Winnipeg later in a couple of months. So we'll see if all that extra work and conditioning, we'll see if it starts to pay off. You know, it's a long road between now and 2010, but these are the early days to see what each nation has at their disposal. So Team USA will give another run at the World Championship, and let's not forget, the United States, the defending world champion for now. So that'll just about do it for us from Ritter Arena. Brian Schultz signing off for the game of the week. Wisconsin wins it by a count of 3-0. Don't forget, next week, Dartmouth and Harvard. Friday night at 7 p.m. AJ Molesco will join me for that one. So hope you tune in on our next edition of the USCHO Game of the Week. In the meantime, have a great weekend.